Chapter 1308. After a long time, little Zen Master Fazhao said, "I don't have the courage." He understood what Chu Yang meant. The people in the eastern wilderness were living in hell in the East continent. Had he ever thought of saving these people in hell? If he was merciful, would he only be merciful to the East continent? If Chu Yang was evil, had he ever seen the evil in the East continent? The Buddha said that all living things are equal, but it's wrong. Sure enough, little Zen Master Fazhao found that he was right. He had never interfered before, so why should he now? Facing such accusations, he couldn't refute, so he could only tell the truth. All living things are equal. The Buddha is never wrong. Chu Yang also put his palms together and said, "Amitabha." Then he said, "Monk, you're practicing Buddhism, aren't you?" The anger on little Zen Master Fazhao's face gradually disappeared. However, when the students of the outer yard of the Sky Academy saw this, they were worried that little Zen Master Fazhao would be persuaded by Chu Yang, so they immediately jumped out and shouted angrily, "Wild dog, you've killed so many people and built a temple. How can you talk about Buddhism? Wild dog. He's a devil dog. He's a devil." Little Zen Master Fa Xiong, didn't you see the terrified faces on the temple? They all died with their eyes open. Chu Yang let them say whatever they wanted without saying a word. Little Zen Master Fazhao looked at those horrified faces and felt their fear before death. He said again, "Almsgiver Chu, you've made a big mistake. You can't absolve yourself from the blame." Haha. Chu Yang couldn't help but laugh. "I'm a Buddha. You don't dare to go to hell, but I dare to. What right do you have to question me? Buddha, what do you know? Shaving your head and chanting Amitabha all day long, you're practicing Buddhism? Go back and figure out what Buddhism is. Then you can question me. Otherwise, don't wear a bald head all day long. You'll disgrace Buddhism." "Master, I protest. Is it wrong to be bald?" The parrot was furious because it was bald. It immediately spat at Chu Yang. Finally, it put its wings together and said, "Master, you're being too serious." Amitabha. The wild dog had internal strife. When everyone saw this scene, they did not understand and were even more speechless. "Almsgiver Chu, I really don't understand Buddhism. Please teach me." Little Zen Master Fazhao did not look happy or angry. Chu Yang could not tell what he was thinking. Although he did not want to fight little Zen Master Fazhao, he was not afraid. At most, he would turn the world upside down. Haha, this wild dog dares to say that little Zen Master doesn't understand Buddhism. I'd like to see how he will answer this time. You won't die if you don't ask for it. Talking about Buddha in front of the young monk Fa Jiao is like blinding his eyes and blinding his heart. He's so stupid. Wild dog made a mistake. It's so ridiculous that he wants to use Buddhism to clear his name. Little Zen Master Fazhao, please spare his life. The people of the outer yard of the Sky Yard sneered and ridiculed Chu Yang. When Kui Shinhu and the other two heard the harsh ridicule, the killing intent in their hearts spread infinitely. Chu Yang had told them last night that such a situation might happen, so they had already prepared for it. In the end, they would kill until the outer yard of the Sky Yard was separated. Chu Yang still could not see through little Zen Master Fazhao. Was he a loyal follower of Buddhism or something else? He was willing to waste his breath on this. "Buddha, if you understand, then you understand. If you don't, you still don't understand it." Chu Yang said calmly, "Monk, let's talk about another topic. Which one do you choose, little kindness or great kindness?" "Naturally, I choose great kindness. Killing one to save 10 is little kindness. Killing 10,000 to save all living beings, which one do you choose?" Chapter 1309. The rhythm was already under Chu Yang's control. He smiled and continued, "Let's talk about whether it's true or false. What you see may not be true. Monk, are you convinced? Give me an example." Chu Yang showed his trump card. "The body is a body tree, the heart is like a mirror. Constantly wiping, don't let the dust fall." Is this sentence correct? Little Zen Master Fa Jiao was stunned when he heard it. He looked extremely surprised. He originally wanted to refute Chu Yang's sophistry. However, Such a Zen poem changed his view of Chu Yang greatly. It seemed that the person in front of him was a benefactor. His Dharma was really very profound, and he was afraid that it was not inferior to his. This poem made him even happier. It was as if he was enlightened. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that the Dharma was profound and had endless charm. He couldn't help but say, Amitabha, the body of all living beings is a tree of wisdom, and the soul is like a bright mirror. You have to constantly polish it from time to time, and not let it be polluted by dust and obstruct the nature of light. Only then can you be enlightened. Almsgiver Chu, I've learned something. Of course. Chu Yang smiled proudly. Monk, if that's the case, you think that the poem is correct. Then listen to this one. Body has no tree, the mirror is not a mirror. Originally there was nothing, where did the dust fall? Is this also correct? Body had no tree, the mirror was not a mirror. It was originally nothingness. How could it be polluted by dust? To enlighten living beings, it was not as simple as wiping away the dust. Little Zen master Fa Zhao was stunned. When he looked at Chu Yang again, he was even more shocked. At this moment, he no longer felt that Chu Yang was sophistry with him. He was really talking to him about Dharma. However, the method was different. But it made him feel surprised again and again. It was more profound than the understanding he got from practicing Dharma. Chu Yang took the opportunity to push, Monk, now let's go back to the topic. Let me ask you, what is the biggest evil in the world? What is the biggest demon? As he spoke, he raised his finger and pointed to the group of students in the outer yard. Monk, did you hear their sarcasm and sarcasm? Did you see the evil in them? The biggest demon? Wild dog, you're the demon. You're a murderous demon. No matter how eloquent you are, you can't escape justice today. What wild dog? He's a mad dog, a demon. If we don't get rid of him, who knows how many people will die tragically in his hands. Little Zen master Fa Zhao, don't be fooled by this murderous demon. A storm of sarcasm and curses rained down on Chu Yang like a spring breeze. When they were done with their sarcasm and curses, he said to the young monk Fa Zhao, Monk, what did you see? Amitabha. Little Zen master Fa Zhao saw the ugliness and the discrimination of the East continent against the Eastern wilderness. He also saw how they targeted Chu Yang. Almsgiver Chu, Dharma is profound. I'm ignorant. Please enlighten me, Almsgiver Chu. The slander of the crowd just now was only an assist to Chu Yang. He smiled lightly. Monk, you're really bad at understanding. I've already given you the answer at the beginning. After a pause, he suddenly used the lion's roar. Monk, let me ask you, why does Buddha want all living things to be equal? Buzz. Little Zen master Fa Zhao's mind buzzed. He immediately thought of the discrimination of the East continent against the Eastern wilderness. Countless images appeared in his mind and he vaguely knew what Chu Yang was going to say. Was it going to be a success? Chu Yang was delighted and continued to ask, the East continent discriminates against the Eastern wilderness. The Central continent discriminates against the East continent. What else discriminates against the Central continent and so on? There are all kinds of discrimination in the world. Every moment, every time, how many people are suffering and being slaughtered because of it? Monk, can you tell me? He suddenly pointed at Jingguan. Have I killed more people or have more people died because of discrimination? More, how much more? Can you tell me? Fa Zhao couldn't answer even a single word. This made Chu Yang realize that Fa Zhao was an honest person, and that he was bullying an honest person. Fa Zhao was just bullying an honest person. Amitabha. Almsgiver Chu, are you saying that discrimination is the biggest evil in the world? Who knows? Chu Yang said honestly, Monk, I don't know if discrimination is the biggest evil in the world, but inequality is the original sin. Chapter 13:10. What a braggart. Chu Yang's roar caused the parrot to roll its eyes. It was completely convinced by Chu Yang's bullshit. His bullshit shook the heavens and created a peerless beauty. It was so ridiculous, but the silly monk was stunned. He even thought that Chu Hang was a Buddha and wanted to kneel down and worship him. The parrot didn't know how to express its feelings. It found that even if it activated the 3-character classic, it couldn't express its complicated feelings at this moment. However, it had to admit that if Chu Yang was the second best braggart, there was no one in the world who was the best. Chu Hang was the most supreme existence in the bragging world. The little girl Ji Yinyan also looked at Chu Yang with a strange expression, as if she was saying that such a ridiculous thing existed. She secretly muttered in her heart, "This bastard Chu is not only evil but also heaven-defying. He's so good at bragging. He's like a crane in a flock of chickens among a group of dog-skin plasters. He seems to be the best choice to be my brother-in-law." Amitabha. The little Zen master Fa Zhao was stunned for a moment. Then, he put his palms together and said, "I don't dare. Almsgiver Chu, I finally understand what you said just now. It should be seen in all things, such as dreams, illusions, bubbles, shadows, dew, and electricity. If you know that the body is empty and don't covet it, you can't take it." As he said that, he actually knelt down and kowtowed to Chu Yang. "Today, I saw the real Buddha and broke through the demonic barrier. Please accept my kowtow, almsgiver Chu. How is this possible? Isn't this a ghost?" Boom. The people of the East Continent were in an uproar. At first, they thought that even if Wild Dog could exaggerate, it would be useless. Therefore, although they ridiculed him, they didn't stop him. They were waiting for Chu Yang to make a fool of himself and annoy the little Zen master Fa Zhao. They were waiting to see how Wild Dog would die. They never thought that it would turn out like this. At this moment, it was as if all of them had been struck by lightning. All of them were stunned. What was even more incredible was that the real number 1 disciple of the outer court of the Sky Academy actually knelt down and kowtowed to the Wild Dog piously. "Little Zen Master Fa Zhao, have you really lost your mind? Even if he's stupid, he shouldn't be this stupid, right? It is clear that the Wild Dog is a great evil. He has slaughtered so many people. He has committed such a heinous crime that Buddha will never forgive him. After his death, this Wild Dog will also go to the 18th level of hell. Little Zen Master Fa Zhao, don't listen to the sophistry of this Wild Dog. Otherwise, your Buddhist heart will be covered with dust and you will fall into the evil spirit. Wild Dog has a glib tongue. It's not too late to turn back now. Little monk Fa Zhao, it's not too late for you to turn back now. Otherwise, you'll become a huge joke." In the storm, Chu Yang pretended to smile bitterly and said, "Monk, do you see? All living beings are ignorant. There are too many people who don't realize it. That's why there are so many pains, so many sufferings, and so many evils in the world. I can't save all living beings, nor can I save the Eastern Wilderness. I can only save myself." Amitabha. His last sentence was like a charlatan, and he almost shouted Amen. "Almsgiver Chu's words have awoken me from my dreams. Almsgiver, please accept 2 more kowtows from me." Only after kowtowing 3 times could he show his sincerity. What little Zen master Fa Zhao was kowtowing to now was the Buddha in his heart. Chu Yang respected such an honest person. He didn't dare to humiliate him easily, but he had to continue fooling him. "Monk, you're wrong again," Chu Yang said. "The Buddha saves all living beings. In fact, what he saves is himself. If I said that I was enlightened by you just now, didn't you enlighten me as well? People like you, who have a pure heart, have never been short of such people. The place where you live is the Western paradise mentioned by the Buddha." Chapter 13:11. If the little Zen master Fa Zhao and Chu Yang still had some doubts, they were all gone after listening to Chu Yang's chicken soup for the soul. He stood up and said, "Almsgiver Chu's words are really incisive and to the point. I've been studying Buddhism for more than 10 years, but I've never understood as much as I did today. I've indeed been obsessed." Chu Yang smiled. "Monk, are you saying that I'm in the Western paradise?" Amitabha. The little Zen master Fa Zhao said, "I dare not lie, but I'm sure Almsgiver Chu is in the Western paradise." "I'm in hell." "Your body is in hell, but your heart is in the Western paradise." Chu Yang did not want to continue arguing with the little Zen master Fa Zhao. He might be exposed, so he said, "Monk, please step aside. My Buddha, I'm afraid you won't like it later. Almsgiver Chu, don't worry. The discrimination of the East Continent in the Eastern Wilderness is something only a brave person like Almsgiver Chu dares to do. Even if I don't like it, I won't stop Almsgiver Chu from doing such a good deed." Before he spoke, the little Zen master Fa Zhao retreated behind Chu Yang. As soon as he sat down with his legs crossed, the people of the East Continent almost went crazy. How could such a bullshit thing happen in front of them? "Little Zen master Fa Zhao, are you an idiot? You're from the East Continent. If the people of the East Continent are as stupid as you, they'd be better off dead. I've never seen such a stupid person in my life. Today, I've opened my eyes." Yinlongzi had shown up a long time ago, but he had not made a sound until now. At this moment, he looked at Chu Yang with a strange gaze. He also found it hard to believe that Chu Yang had convinced the little Zen master Fa Zhao so easily. However, he had to admit that Chu Yang did make sense. Therefore, he could not figure out Chu Yang, and he would not act rashly. Of course, Chu Yang had also been paying attention to the silver dragon. After all, he was also a powerful figure, a powerful battle force in the East Continent. Yinlongzi didn't say anything. To him, everyone else was trash. He said disdainfully, "Talking to a chicken is different from talking to a duck. It's like playing the lute to a cow. I really have nothing to say to you devils. I can only use principles that you can understand to enlighten you." Shua. Chu Yang moved. He directly charged into the crowd and grabbed a person by the neck. He laughed and said, "Who did you just call a mad dog, and who are you calling a devil dog?" With a cracking sound, this person didn't even have time to say anything. While he was still in fear, his neck was already broken. This was the principle of the fist. Chu Yang had already endured for a long time. At this moment, he repeatedly moved and appeared beside another person. He smiled evilly at that person and said, "You're right, I am a homicidal maniac." Pa. The hand descended, and Chu Yang left. The man's head exploded, and his brain matter flew everywhere. He was merciless, and the people of the East Continent fled in all directions. Amitabha. Seeing this, the little Zen master Fa Zhao put his palms together and chanted the rebirth mantra again. Yinlongzi didn't move, and he had no intention of attacking. He just stood there, and Chu Yang didn't look for trouble with him. He roughly understood Chu Yang's way of doing things. "If you scold me, I'll take your life." This was a person who never suffered losses or was bullied. He did things as he pleased, and once he was angry, blood would splatter everywhere. The chaos soon ended, and the people of the East Continent were like frightened birds. Chu Yang stood upright in the void. His long hair and sleeves were fluttering even though there was no wind. His tiger-like eyes were as bright as the stars, blooming with an incomparably terrifying radiance. An invisible tyrannical aura was surging. Chapter 13:12. Chu Yang's voice rumbled like thunder, resounding through the entire area. His divine might was awe-inspiring, like an invincible god of war. He alone could hold back 10,000 men, and even if there were 10,000 men, he would still press forward. No one dared to look him in the eye. So this is Chu Yang, the leader of the Eastern Wilderness. As expected, he never disappoints. Kui Xinhu and the other two looked at Chu Yang's supreme expression, and were extremely excited. Ban Sungyang and the other three, as well as Jiang Fanchun, all let out sighs of relief. With Chu Yang's strength, their days in the future would be a bit better. Even if someone looked down on them, they would have an excuse. #yuan%%%. The parrot was cursing in its heart. Damned Chu Hang, he never brought this divine bird along to show off. Its eyes darted around, trying to seamlessly integrate into Chu Yang's rhythm, but the little lowly next to him almost angered it to death. "Little brat, you'll have to wait a few more years to show off. If you want to show off, then it'll be my brother-in-law bringing this little lowly to show off. You stand to the side. Motherfucker, Chu Hang hasn't even met your sister, and you're already calling him brother-in-law? Have you asked your sister's feelings?" The parrot glared at her. The little lowly proudly raised her head and said crisply, "Brother-in-law, you're mighty." The parrot realized that it had met its match, and then it madly attacked. "Little lowly, you're cheating your sister and selling your sister. You have such a bright future ahead of you. You can even do such a deranged thing. Of course. The little lowly became even more complacent. Only a supreme little lowly like me can personally arrange my own sister's marriage. As for my sister, she'll definitely blame me at first, but in the end, she'll admire my supreme vision. Hashuan, Hashuan, Hashuan. The parrot was cursing in its heart, because it had completely lost. Being shameless wasn't a problem. The main problem was that it didn't have a sister to sell. At first, when the little lowly Ji Yinyin called Chuyang brother-in-law, everyone didn't believe it was true. However, the little lowly's complacency made them unable to deny this fact. They couldn't help but think about the relationship between Chuyang and Ji Yinmeng. Then, the whole place exploded again. Could it be that wild dog really has an affair with Ji Fairy? She's just a little witch. There's nothing she doesn't dare to do, and there's nothing she doesn't dare to say. That's right. How could Fairy Ji have anything to do with the wild dog? Didn't that little witch already say that she made the decision on her own? This is a classic example of selling out one's sister. The little lowly Ji Yinyin was fuming. She shouted at Chuyang, brother-in-law, beat them. It's fine if they call you wild dog, but they actually said that your relationship with my sister is improper. Strip them naked and hang them up to dry. Chuyang's face couldn't help but twitch. Femme fatale. This damned little lowly had made such a scene. Who knew if there would be a lot of animals who would want to fight him to the death? His head hurt a little. He really wanted to beat this lawless little lowly. He hadn't even touched her little hand, but he had become her brother-in-law. Did she ask him? At this moment, a few otherworldly beauties were flying over. The one at the very front was like a veil of moonlight covering her body. She also resembled an immortal flower. Her entire person was hazy and indistinct, it was impossible to see her clearly. However, she gave off a flawless feeling. Their appearance instantly attracted the attention of everyone present. It's Fairy Ji. That's right, it's Fairy Ji. Wait a moment, we'll know if the wild dog is related to her. Ji Yinmeng. Chuyang was naturally interested in the so-called second beauty. He couldn't help but look over. Brother-in-law, my sister is here. Why aren't you composing a poem? Don't you always flirt with girls like this? Chuyang staggered in midair and almost fell down. He glared at the little lowly. How could it be the same? Previously, he was teasing his future fiancée. His fiancée obviously had tolerance. Did your sister? There was another person who almost tumbled to the ground. It was a woman who was flying over at high speed. When she heard Enin's shouts, she felt as if she was struck by lightning. Her body trembled and she stopped abruptly, landing behind the other women. In an instant, a furious gaze was fixed on Ji Yinyin. She even hated Chuyang. Waha! When the parrot saw Chuyang's appearance just now, it was laughing in its heart. Although it didn't laugh out loud, it was rolling on the ground. Chapter 13:13. After Ji Yinmeng recovered from being struck by her brother-in-law, she quickly came forward. Her jade-like body was slender and graceful. Under the moonlight, it was as if she was standing in the moon palace. She was incomparably holy and distant, as if the people on the moon would never be able to approach her. Her face was shrouded in mist, making it impossible to see her true appearance. However, this made her even more alluring and tempting. When the little monk Fa Zhao saw Ji Yinmeng, he seemed to have committed a sin of lust and immediately repented. Amitabha. Yin Longzi was completely dazed and lost his mind. He couldn't help but mutter to himself, Goddess Ji, no matter how many times I see her, she is always so stunning. Everyone present, including the horny students, felt as if they were in a dream. Their gazes all fell on Yinmeng's body. When they heard Yin Longzi's voice, they all unconsciously nodded their heads. Young Master Yu is too kind. Ji Yinmeng's jade-like body was formed according to the golden ratio. No matter how Chuyang looked at her, he felt that she was absolutely beautiful. For a moment, he couldn't help but feel a bit thirsty. Especially that kind of haziness, it was even more tempting. Amidst the haziness, he couldn't see clearly, but Chuyang felt that her waist was the most attractive part. This kind of waist was something that he couldn't describe at this moment. Her voice was gentle and clear. When it fell into Chu Yang's ears, he felt as if he was hearing the sounds of nature. It was very pleasant to listen to, like a warm wind blowing into one's heart and tugging at one's heartstrings. There was a strange magic in her voice that made people fall into a trance. This woman is so amazing. Chu Yang reacted and was extremely shocked. He remembered that Yin Meng had only said one sentence, but that one sentence caused the sound waves to ripple out like the softest ripples. What was contained within those words? After hearing it, people would unconsciously have a good impression of her. It was to the point that no matter how beautiful her voice was, it was completely forgotten and ignored. Perhaps it was only a vague impression that her voice was very pleasant to listen to, the most pleasant voice in the world. He's almost on par with my Lan Lan. Very extraordinary. Chu Yang couldn't help but exclaim. He felt that he had to be around Shangguan Lan for a while. Otherwise, he would be led by the nose by a woman. Distance is beautiful. Chu Yang also had a general assessment of Ji Yinmeng. She was indeed extraordinary and gave people a very special feeling. However, regardless of whether it was her body or her voice, under that kind of unreality, she exploded with an even greater allure. Perhaps this is a very scheming woman. Perhaps she just wants to hide her overly beautiful appearance. Chu Yang had no way of knowing. Amitabha. Chu Yang put his palms together like the little Zen master and muttered to himself, without the appearance of self, without the appearance of man, without the appearance of all living things, without the appearance of longevity, pink skeletons, white bones, skin, and flesh. I understand now. Thank you, Miss Guoji. He instantly snatched everyone's attention. When everyone's gazes were all on him, he felt that it was natural. That was because he was the brightest star. How could he let his focus be shifted just because of Yinmeng, and let all of his hard work be reduced? Everyone looked at Chu Yang with a strange expression. Then, they realized that Chu Yang had successfully attracted the attention of Goddess Ji. In an instant, their gazes turned into swords. They couldn't wait to chop Chu Yang into minced meat. To hell with the pink skeletons, white bones, skin, and flesh. Wild dog, you bastard, you're just pretending to be noble and virtuous to attract Goddess Ji's attention. However, they also secretly hated that they didn't think of it earlier. Why didn't they say Amitabha? Chapter 13-14. Amitabha. Hearing the voice and seeing that it was the little Zen master Fa Zhao, everyone couldn't help but roll their eyes. Monk, what are you doing here? Almsgiver Chu, your comprehension is really amazing. Not many people understood the little Zen master Fa Zhao's words. Perhaps Chu Yang was the only one present. Others saw Chu Yang's shamelessness. Only the little Zen master Fa Zhao saw Chu Yang's true intention to kill people to become a Buddha. Ji Yinmeng was obstructing him. Brother-in-law, don't become a monk. If you become a monk, won't my sister be a widow? The little lowly Ji Yinyin opened her mouth and said anxiously. Suddenly, everyone felt as if they were struck by lightning again. There was a hole in their consciousness that was emitting green smoke. When Chu Yang saw Ji Yinmeng's delicate body tremble like an electric current, he was completely speechless. Then, he spread his hands and said innocently, "This has nothing to do with me. If it has nothing to do with you, then who does it have to do with?" It was a classic case of pretending to be innocent after taking advantage of the situation. Everyone was furious. They really wanted to burn this shameless bastard and listen to his pleasant screams. However, they could only think about it. Ji Yinmeng also gritted her teeth in her heart. If it has nothing to do with you, could it be that I'm thinking too much about you? If Chu Yang knew what she was thinking, he would say that he was even more innocent and clearly state that he was really the victim. Your little lowly is not only tricking sister, but also tricking a good young man like me. He still needs to find a wife. How can he give up the entire forest for a flower like you? Everything has to do with you. Chu Hang, you have to educate your sister-in-law well. Otherwise, the world will be in chaos. As soon as the parrot opened its mouth, Chu Yang wanted to barbecue it. He had always wanted to shift the focus back to Ji Yinmeng's killing power was too great. In this way, he had done so much. How many people would be afraid of him? How much prestige would he have left? Chu Yang's mood was really too bad. He grabbed the parrot, and in an instant, its feathers fluttered. He cursed in his heart, "Little bastard, your cooperation is fucking awesome." After the parrot screamed for a while, it disappeared in an instant, but it said proudly, "Master, I've already mastered the divine skill, feather, come." Immediately, the parrot's feathers grew out one by one. They were extremely gorgeous, and even it was intoxicated by them. "I've become more beautiful again. You're a pig teammate, if you keep talking, I'll turn your head." Chu Yang fiercely transmitted his voice to the parrot. The parrot immediately understood and was greatly surprised. At the same time, it also scolded, "This divine bird has flattered the wrong horse this time." When Pit Chu sees a female, he actually has a time when he doesn't want to breed offspring. This divine bird has opened my eyes again. "Hey." The parrot poked Ji Yinmeng with its wings, "That pink skeleton flower, such a serious matter was messed up by you. My master is not happy. Get lost as far as you can." Waha. It laughed proudly and looked down on everyone. "You idiots, you actually gave up the entire forest for a pink skeleton flower. Not only my master despises you, even I look down on you. Your IQ is hopeless. Little brat, what do you know? The love between a man and a woman is not something a little brat like you can understand. What forest? Look at you." The little lowly Ji Yinyin put her hands on her hips and stared at the parrot with disdain. The parrot was so angry that it cried out, "Little lowly, you're the little brat. Are you afraid that your sister won't be able to get married? You're so active in harming my master." "Nonsense, my brother-in-law and my sister are a dragon and a phoenix, a golden boy and a jade girl, a match made in heaven. You don't understand, little brat, shut up. You're the one who shut up." Chapter 13-15. The little lowly Ji Yinyin saw that the two were so synchronized and became even more arrogant. She said to the parrot, "Little brat, did you see that? My brother-in-law and my sister have such a tacit understanding. Their tone is as cold as frost and their killing intent is like a volcano erupting. They are simply on the same level. If they don't leave together, they will definitely be struck by lightning." The heavens were about to strike him with lightning. The parrot decisively withdrew from the battlefield. Sure enough, Ji Yinmeng also couldn't stand her sister and wanted to beat her up. But just as she moved, pa pa pa, crisp sounds were already heard. Chu Yang was already beating the little lowly's butt. Every time his big hand fell, the little lowly would scream miserably, "Brother-in-law, you dare to mistreat your sister-in-law like this. I will definitely let my sister, your father-in-law and mother-in-law teach you a lesson. They will make things difficult for you. You can't marry a second one." Chu Yang found that Ji Yinmeng's mood was fluctuating extremely violently. She even had killing intent towards him. Her face was almost black and her beating was even more ruthless. She beat the little lowly until she didn't dare to make a sound. Her big eyes were filled with tears. "Surrender." The little lowly surrenders. "Demon King Chu, please spare my life." Ji Yinyin raised the little white flag, which made Ji Yinmeng stunned. This little girl had never been so humble. As her sister, she couldn't do it. But as an outsider, she actually did it. How ruthless must the beating be to be like this? Because of this, Ji Yinmeng's killing intent burned even more fiercely. She knew her sister too well. To be able to torture the little lowly like this, that bastard's methods were definitely incomparably ruthless. Ha ha. Chu Yang heard the praise and his dragon heart was very happy. He couldn't stop laughing. "Little lowly, you need to maintain reverence towards the Demon King. You understand. I understand, I understand, I understand." Ji Yinyin nodded repeatedly like a chick pecking at rice. However, when Chu Yang let go of her, she flew into Ji Yinmeng's arms with a whoosh. "Sister, save me." Her high-decibel screams almost tore through people's eardrums. The little lowly's tears flowed down as she began to complain. Her small body trembled as she said, "Sister, you must save me. I will listen to you in the future. That demon is too scary. He almost stripped me naked and hung me up to dry. He also said that he wanted to cut open my stomach and stuff Xiao Hua inside so that I could make a small fire. Whenever I don't listen to him, he hits me. Look, she showed Ji Yinmeng her swollen but to Ji Yinmeng, causing Ji Yinmeng to reveal a murderous look in her eyes. This wasn't the end of it. The little lowly began to frame Chu Yang. Everything that happened just now was forced by that demon. He forced me to call him brother-in-law in front of others. He even wanted me to find a chance to seduce sister so that what is done cannot be undone. If I didn't listen, he wanted me to replace sister and give birth to a little monkey for him. This little lowly had no integrity, no bottom line, and no morals. When Chu Yang heard this, he almost blacked out. According to what the little lowly said, he was simply ruining the flower of the East continent. His crime was so heinous that even 100 deaths couldn't atone for it. The situation was too bad, and the situation was too serious. It was like this. Everyone's anger and murderous aura were off the charts. Everyone had turned into envoys of justice, and their hearts were filled with a sense of righteousness and mission. If it was said that Chu Yang was righteous before, then he was definitely infinitely evil now. What was worse was that as Ji Yinin's sister, Ji Yinmeng seemed to have completely believed it. The murderous aura that pervaded the air was so strong that it seemed to have materialized. Her beautiful eyes were extremely cold. She looked at Chu Yang without a trace of emotion, as if she was looking at a dead person. Does this woman have a brain? What made Chu Yang even more flustered and exasperated was that the little lowly secretly made a face at him. Her revenge was successful, and she had a face of a villain intoxicated with success. He had been tricked. Chu Yang was extremely depressed. He had been hunting geese all day long, and he had been pecked in the eyes by geese. Moreover, it wasn't just one big goose. Chapter 13:16. Now that Chu Yang's various evil deeds had been exposed, the students of the Sky Academy became even angrier. Previously, they couldn't wait to kill this devil immediately. But now, they wouldn't be reconciled if they didn't cut him into pieces and send him to the 18th level of hell. Dog demon, you're disgusting. You didn't even let go of a little girl. How could you do such a beastly thing? He is a beast. What's so strange about that? However, such a beast, no matter what, cannot be allowed to live past today. Yes, the dog demon must die today. Otherwise, who knows how many people will be killed by him and how many people will die in peace. Little Zen Master Fa Zhao, have you seen it? Are you going to be deceived by such a murderous maniac? Amidst the indignation, the parrot's laughter cut off everything. Ha ha ha, I'm dying of laughter. The parrot was rolling on the ground, laughing crazily. Ha ha, Chu Hang can also be deceived. This was a good way to explain, but the parrot was not trying to whitewash Chu Yang. It was laughing crazily. Chu Yang also shook his head and smiled bitterly. Ha ha ha. The parrot laughed even harder. Chu Hang, I told you that this little girl must be educated. Otherwise, she will go to heaven. See, she's going to heaven now. Chu Hang, are you mad? I'm not mad. I'm more serious than mad. Chu Yang corrected it. I'm very depressed now, extremely depressed. In the future, when I see creatures like little girls, I'll kill them directly. I won't let any of them live. Jiang Fanchun, Ban Shungrong and the others also laughed. Chu Yang was not serious, and he acted decisively. But to say that he was a beast to the little lowly, he really wasn't. What else do you have to say? Ji Yinmeng's voice was very cold, like frost falling, and her killing intent swept out like a tide. It doesn't matter. I don't care. Forgive all the wrongs in this world. Chu Yang was not happy with this brainless woman, so he started singing. Then, he shrugged and said, Are you satisfied with my answer? He really didn't care. Don't you know your own sister's nature? The fact that Grandpa didn't look for trouble with you is already very nice. How dare you look at me coldly and point your sword at me? Kui Xinhu and the other two also sneered. In their opinion, Ji Yinmeng was probably just using this as an excuse to make things difficult for Chu Yang. But she had found the wrong person, and she had chosen the wrong person. So, you admit it. Ji Yinmeng's voice was still very pleasant to listen to. It would make people have a good impression of her, but it would give birth to endless disgust towards her enemies. She stepped forward step by step, closing in on Chu Yang. Humph! Chu Yang coldly snorted. The corners of his mouth curled up into a sneer. He said in a cold voice, "Your appearance has greatly affected my reputation. Now, it's just right. I'll kill you, and all the effects will be eliminated." His cold voice fell into Ji Yinin's ears, and for the first time, she regretted framing Chu Yang. As for Chu Yang, although she had only known him for a short time, she had a very deep understanding of what kind of person Chu Yang was. Chu Yang was indeed a supreme devil king. Even if her elder sister was very beautiful, Ji Yinyin believed that Chu Yang wouldn't have the slightest bit of hesitation when the butcher's knife in his hand fell. If you want to pit sister, you must pit sister to the end. No discord, no concord. If sister didn't deeply understand how terrifying brother-in-law is, she would not be convinced. This lady is just speeding up the process between the two of them. Chapter 13-17. With your mere cultivation of Spirit Realm Level 8. Ji Yinmeng couldn't help but sneer. When the students of the Sky Academy saw Ji Yinmeng taking action, they immediately cheered for her. The demonic dog overestimated himself. He deserved to die. How can the demonic dog be compared to the demonic dog? She can kill him with a single finger. That so-called wild dog. Other than using sneaky means, what else can he do? That's right. Wild dog is nothing more than a treacherous villain. He is despicable to the extreme. Those who have been killed by him, their deaths are simply too unjust. The little Zen master Fa Zhao frowned slightly. He understood what Chu Yang meant, and the reaction of the crowd made him understand why Chu Yang wanted to kill people. But because of this, too many people would die. Could it be that I was moved by compassion again because of Miss Ji? The little Zen master Fa Zhao couldn't help but put his palms together, amid her. Miss Ji, you better state your purpose in front of Benefactor Chu. Are you going to vent your anger for your sister, or are you going to bully the Eastern Wilderness for the East Continent? A trace of surprise flashed through Yinlong's eyes. He naturally stood on Ji Yinmeng's side, but the little Zen master Fa Zhao's words made his fear of Chu Yang magnified infinitely. This person could build a Jingguan temple, and he would definitely be ruthless when killing Ji Yinmeng. I can tell you clearly that it's both. Ji Yinmeng wasn't facing the little Zen master Fa Zhao, but directly provoked Chu Yang. Haha. Everyone loved beauty, and Chu Yang was naturally no exception. But now, he had already decided to kill. To stand for the nobility of the East Continent and bully the Eastern Wilderness, there was no one that couldn't die. Not even Ji Yinmeng. What are you relying on, the cultivation of the Transcendence Realm? Chu Yang sneered. Who are you paving the way for? Xia Wanjin, Liu Yunpeng, Xiao Chang'e, or Xiong Longxiang? According to what I know, the first three don't seem to have much interest in you. You think too highly of yourself. Everyone knew about the battle between Shangguan Lan and Ji Yinmeng. But in the end, Ji Yinmeng was completely defeated, and she could only become the second beauty. Ji Yinmeng's SD was enraged. They're not worthy. What's funny is, you actually think that you can kill me. Oh. Chu Yang smiled, but was too lazy to say anything more. He directly stretched out his hand and said, "Let's welcome the next one." Yinyin was really worried this time. Although Chu Yang's cultivation level was very low now, a person like him couldn't be judged by his cultivation level. Brother-in-law, it's normal for couples to fight. Can you be gentler? Ji Yinyin opened her mouth and boosted the morale of others, which almost made Ji Yinmeng die of anger. The students of the Sky Academy couldn't help glaring at her. Was she really her biological sister? They really doubted it. The little lowly was too lazy to pay attention to these idiots. She said to her sister, "I say, sister, this is definitely not a scam. Brother-in-law is a scammer. You must not be fooled by his appearance." At the same time, she secretly transmitted a message, "Sister, that bastard is extremely amazing. I interrupted his enlightenment, but he can still go up. He's even a lunatic. He found someone to disturb his enlightenment." Ji Yinmeng's heart trembled. Her sister was naughty, but she could be so serious. It showed how amazing Chu Yang was. Everyone had different thoughts. Obviously, Ji Yinin's words shocked many people. Chu Yang only smiled, but he was extremely unhappy in his heart. Ji Yinmeng didn't care whether she was here to explore or not, but her cultivation of the transcendence realm was there. If they fought, the means he prepared for Xia Wanjin and the others would all be exposed. Chapter 13:18. I have to think of a way. Then he smiled as he thought of a way. If there were any more changes, then so be it. If he was exposed. If he was hated, then so be it. He would just kill Ji Yinmeng. At this moment, Ji Yinmeng had already walked to the center of the field. Chu Yang stepped straight in. Then, he smiled and said, I have something to tell you. He pointed at the little lowly Ji Yinyin and said, I did something to her body. If you don't lower your cultivation to the soul fusion realm, I will kill her directly. Wild dog, you are really despicable. Wild dog, you are extremely shameless. Demon dog, aren't you very capable? Aren't you very arrogant? What's wrong with you now? Why are you scared? Why are you scared? Ji Yinyin was also stunned. However, she didn't seem to recall such a thing in her memory. However, how could that bastard let her know when he did something to her body? He. Chu Yang didn't care and just smiled. Despicable. Am I as despicable as you? Shameless. Am I as shameless as you? Should I say that you are stupid, or should I say that I am stupid? He pointed at Jingguan and ridiculed everyone. Do you see those heads? They are life and death enemies. You actually want me to tie up my hands and feet and even let my neck be chopped off. Your logic is really amazing. Kui Xinhu and the other two also sneered. Chu Yang versus many, why didn't you say that he was despicable at that time? You don't have confidence, do you? Ji Yinmeng's words would be effective against an ordinary proud youth. However, she was currently attacking Chu Yang. Do I need you to care? Chu Yang sneered. If you say that I don't have confidence, it should be you. Aren't you a noble person from the East Continent? I am just a dog in the eastern wilderness. Why are you so careful in front of a dog? How can you endure your nobility? Who are you trying to choke? Do you know who I am? He sneered in his heart. So you're saying that you're determined to do such a thing? Ji Yinmeng was not to be underestimated. Chu Yang's verbal attack did not affect her in the slightest. Chu Yang had already regarded her as an enemy, so he naturally wouldn't have any psychological fluctuations. He indifferently smiled. Bickering with a woman is something only idiots do. I'm officially informing you that this conversation is over. Either you seal your own cultivation, or I'll first kill that little lowly for you and then chop off your head, adding a bit of elegance to Jingguan. This was not what Ji Yinyin wanted to see. She completely regretted pushing her sister to the front of the stage to face Chu Yang. If the one who died was Chu Yang, it would be fine, but if it was her sister who died, then it would be terrible. However, it was too late for regrets. She did not have the ability to turn the situation around. Okay, I'll satisfy you. Ji Yinmeng was completely angered by the threat. Her pleasant voice became even colder. Don't think that you're invincible in the same realm just because you defeated Xiao Chang'e and Xiong Longxiang. You know this too. Chu Yang had no more psychological burden to kill Ji Yinmeng. He smiled brightly. Then please. Ji Yinmeng said to little Zen master Fa Zhao, please seal my cultivation to below the soul fusion realm. She was very strong and showed incomparable confidence to make little Zen master Fa Zhao, whom Chu Yang trusted, seal her cultivation. Amitabha. Little Zen master Fa Zhao glanced at Ji Yinmeng. He felt that Ji Yinmeng was not simply venting for her sister. He wanted to say something but stopped. Then, he raised his hand and pointed at the void. One by one, formation seals formed. Little Zen master Fa Zhao was also a formation master. The formation seals continuously entered Ji Yinmeng's body and quickly formed a sealing formation. It sealed Ji Yinmeng's cultivation to below the soul fusion realm. Haha. In the face of Ji Yinmeng's provocation, Chu Yang laughed loudly. Today, I want to kill a beauty and take her head to spread my name of ruthlessness. Chapter 13:19. The parrot was very familiar with Chu Yang's current appearance. Chu Hang had really made up his mind to kill him. What a pity. Such a beautiful woman could have been used to give birth to children and become a member of Chu Hang's harem. The parrot felt sorry in its heart. However, Ji Yinmeng was too arrogant. Did she think that Chu Yang was easy to deal with? Since she knew what Chu Hang had done, she still dared to be so presumptuous. She deserved to die. The parrot sneered in its heart. Chu Yang and Ji Yinmeng confronted each other in the field. All the eyes of the audience fell on the two of them. Everyone's nerves seemed to be tense. However, the most worried and anxious person was the little lowly Ji Yinyin. This is bad, this is bad. This time, you tricked people and caused trouble. Bastard Chu, you really don't know how to have tender feelings for the fairer sex. Can't you give in a little? My sister is a great beauty. This time, it really taught Ji Yinyin a lesson. She tricked people and finally tricked her own sister. A bastard like Chu Yang could not be measured by ordinary means. However, she had no other way now. She was angry and resentful. She was angry at Chu Yang for being a bastard. She was angry at her own sister. Why did he despise the eastern wilderness? Didn't he have enough to eat? The audience was silent. There was not a trace of sound. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the two people in the field. Even the little Zen master Fa Zhao was no exception. Ji Yinmeng's figure was graceful, like a soft willow in the wind. Her curves were undulating, and her eyes were flowing. Because Ji Yinmeng was closer than ever, Chu Yang not only smelled the fragrance of her body, but also clearly saw her devilish figure. Her slender body was faintly discernible in the gauze dress. Ji Yinmeng had a swan-like neck and silk-like black hair. The strong contrast of black and white made her look even more flirtatious. At this moment, Chu Yang could faintly see a delicate face. It's not an exaggeration to say that this woman is a peerless beauty. Chu Yang's gaze became even sharper. He could faintly see Ji Yinmeng's beautiful face. A divine light gradually appeared on her face. Her eyes became incomparably deep. Buzz, buzz, buzz. A buzzing sound rang out in the air as boundless mental energy rushed out from between Ji Yinmeng's eyebrows. However, before it could affect Chu Yang, he felt as if his mental perception was about to be distorted. He could not help but hallucinate in his consciousness. Illusion. This damned daughter of mine actually planned to use such a method to deal with me. Although her cultivation was sealed, her mental energy wasn't. This meant that her transcendent stage mental energy could crush his spirit stage mental energy. No wonder this woman is so confident. Chu Yang sneered in his heart. His mental energy was definitely not inferior to a transcendent stage because he was a rank 7 array master. Moreover, his soul was currently extremely special. Even if he faced a nirvana stage's mental energy, he might not necessarily lose. Do you think that I don't know anything about illusions? You're actually using illusions to deal with me. You're simply seeking death. However, Chu Yang discovered a huge problem. If he revealed his powerful mental energy, wouldn't that be the same as telling everyone that he had been promoted to a rank 7 array master? Wouldn't that mean that his trump card would be exposed? In an instant, he was incomparably depressed. He was actually tricked by this woman. As long as he thought about how he was forced to reveal his trump card, he became even more unhappy. He immediately tried to think of a way. However, as the thought flashed through his mind, he smirked. If I don't let you commit suicide, then I'll let you humiliate yourself. Hee hee. In the blink of an eye, all of this was just a thought in Chu Yang's mind. At this moment, Ji Yinmeng's mental energy was completely applied to his mind. The strange power caused his perception to become even more distorted, and the various illusions became even more realistic. Chapter 1320. TSK, this woman is really narcissistic. Chu Yang distorted his perception to a certain extent so that Ji Yinmeng could not detect it. Then he opened his mouth and said, "Let me tell you a story." He was not affected and even had the leisure to tell a story. Ji Yinmeng was shocked, but she felt that Chu Yang's perception had been completely distorted because she was extremely puzzled. Wahaha! The parrot laughed strangely. My master is going to tell a story again. Everyone, please prick up your ears. I guarantee that the story will be incomparably exciting. The parrot was not present when Chu Yang told the story in the Seven Wheels Demon Realm. It regretted it so much that its intestines turned green. What a wonderful story that was. Long, long ago, there was a temple on a mountain, and there were 2 monks in the temple. The parrot felt that such a classic story was already difficult to surpass. The only one who could surpass it was Chu Hang. Therefore, it was especially excited when Chu Hang told the story. It made a big fuss, but it was ruthlessly ridiculed. TMPH, do you really think you are Eastern Wilderness 002? If everyone in the Eastern Wilderness was Eastern Wilderness 002, you wouldn't be called Wild Dog. Ridiculous. Is this something you can imitate just because you want to? The parrot had already ignored the guy who had been played by Chu Yang and was concentrating on listening to the story. Kui Shinhu and the other 2 laughed and were also interested. They did not know what kind of story Chu Yang was going to tell this time. Long, long ago. It's coming, it's coming. The parrot and Kui Shinhu and the other 2 became even more engrossed. This made Ban Sungyang and Jiang Fanchun realize the gap between them and the parrot. This was simply a godlike cooperation. What the hell is going on? Not only the little lowly muttered, but her sister also muttered in her heart. Chu Yang looked at the parrot and laughed. I'm afraid you will be disappointed. He continued, once upon a time, there was an island. On the island, there were men and women. The men liked to commit seppuku, and the women did not wear underwear. What the hell was this? Wahahaha. While everyone was still in a daze, the parrot started to laugh loudly. When it heard the beginning of the story, women don't wear underwear, it concluded that this was definitely not a serious story. The next part of the story would definitely be very interesting. As for Ji Yinmeng, she had a bad feeling when she heard the words women don't wear underwear. Hee hee. Chu Yang laughed as he said, apart from not wearing underwear, the women on this island also like to study how women give birth. Some women can give birth to more than 200 children in a year. Even pigs could give birth to that many. Countless people despised him. Fairy, take this. This is Japan's secret technique for giving birth. The first move is called all men are blessed. He blindly said. As for the real situation, it was because he had meticulously studied Japan's action movies. After making a difficult choice, he launched a big killer weapon. According to the reactions of the horny students, Ji Yinmeng was regarded as a fairy by countless people. Moreover, she was incomparably holy. Chu Yang judged that if he launched this big killer weapon into her spiritual world in a spiritual confrontation, the fairy would definitely blush and be at a loss of what to do. If this situation continued, she would soon be in a mess in the wind and finally collapse. I'm really too evil. Chu Yang felt that 2 devil horns would definitely grow out of his forehead. He evilly and lowly threw it out. In a flash, Ji Yinmeng's reaction was indeed not quite right. Suddenly, her face and neck turned red. What did she just see? What did she just experience? Was this real? Yinmeng seemed to be convulsing, trembling there. At this moment, she was almost unable to control herself. She was like a bird with broken wings, falling head first. This degree of impact was unbearable to look at, extremely filthy. Chapter 1321. She was flustered and completely at a loss. At the moment when she lost her mind, Chu Yang moved. His spiritual force evolved into a celestial being, and he attacked her with a swoosh. Boom. Ji Yinmeng felt as if she had been hit by a sledgehammer. Her whole body shook, and her spirit was immediately hit hard. She unconsciously held her head with her delicate hands. Ah, she screamed crazily, venting the shame and anger in her heart. Because of the sharp pain in her spirit, she didn't scream much. On the contrary, what Chu Yang put in her spiritual world almost killed her. So much so that she swore that if she found out about that island, she would definitely kill all those shameless women and shameless men. She would beat that island until it sunk so that it would never exist. She was a virgin and had never experienced such a battle. In addition, she was usually superior and was the fairy in the hearts of countless people in the Sky Academy. How could she bear such filth? The effect was so good. Haha. Seeing that Ji Yinmeng was almost crazy, Chu Yang couldn't help holding his belly and laughing crazily. How could he attack? What on earth happened? The parrot's curiosity was like a cat's paw. What kind of story was so wonderful? But it was not the only one. Everyone present wanted to know what had happened. Why did it become like this at the beginning? Looking at the fairy's incomparable shame and anger. Master, tell us the story. The parrot didn't know what the story was, and its heart was almost burning. Yes, in the eastern wilderness, don't just laugh. Tell us what the story is. Haha. When Chu Yang heard this, he couldn't take it anymore. He laughed so hard that he rolled on the ground. The more he laughed like this, the more the parrot was tickled. It roared, "Scammer Chu, what kind of story is this? You bastard, can you not hold back? I'm almost on fire." Haha. Chu Yang was about to laugh crazily. How could he say anything? Ji Yinmeng was mentally injured, and her face was extremely red. She was about to go mad with anger. Chu Yang actually ruined her innocence, and actually used such a despicable, shameless, and vulgar method to deal with her. "I will kill you." She couldn't even use words to curse Chu Yang now. Shameless bastard, despicable bastard. She felt that these words were not enough. These words were too weak. She was really crazy. A crazy woman was very scary, especially one like Ji Yinmeng. Her spiritual illusion technique should be very shocking. If her opponent wasn't Chu Yang, she wouldn't even need to lift a finger to make the other party suffer a fate worse than death. However, when the woman went crazy, she had completely lost her mind. At this moment, if Ji Yinmeng was still conscious, he should not have chosen to continue using the illusion. Chu Yang was incomparably calm. The level of the weapon he had just thrown in was still very low. He still had an even greater killing weapon. He finally stopped laughing and continued to tell the story. There was a woman in Japan who reportedly gave birth to more than 200 children in a year. It was so shocking that she broke the record and applied for a world record. Her name is Lan Lan, Chu Yang shouted. Therefore, the second move is Lan Lan's record of more than 200 children in a year. Please receive this move. In an instant, Chu Yang sent his spirit into Ji Yinmeng's spiritual world. In an instant, her madness stopped, and disappeared. Then, she heard decadent sounds and countless scenes. These scenes were even more absurd than before, making her even more unable to bear it. The impact was so intense that her memory was also incomparably deep. At a glance, it was really the same woman who gave birth to more than 200 children. How can there be such a shameless woman in this world? Chapter 1322. Haha. Chu Yang laughed crazily again. He didn't even think about taking advantage of the situation and completely defeating Ji Yinmeng. The thing that poisoned him actually had such lethality at this time. It was really unexpected. Master, what's the story? Can you tell us a little? The parrot was so anxious that it was already plucking its feathers. There was obviously an incomparably wonderful story. It was definitely many times more wonderful than a temple on a mountain with 2 monks in the temple, but it actually didn't know. Kui Xinhu, Oyu Lajing, Hao Dong, and even Ban Sungyang, Zheng'an, Jiang Fanchun, and her brother were extremely curious. What's the story behind the eastern wilderness? If it's convenient, can you tell us a little? Hao Dong was also scratching his heart. Chu Yang was laughing like this, so there was definitely nothing to say. In addition, if this didn't explain anything, then Ji Yinmeng's reaction was the best endorsement for this story. Everyone present was craning their necks and staring with their eyes wide open. Everyone was extremely curious, what exactly did Chu Yang do to Ji Yinmeng? You can know, but little bitch can't. Jiang Nyo can't, and her brother is too young. Haha. Chu Yang laughed as he spoke. Finally, he pointed his finger and projected a spiritual fragment into the spiritual world of Hao Dong, Zheng'an, and the others. In an instant, their expressions were incomparably wonderful and extremely strange. They directly froze on the spot. No wonder Ji Yinmeng was almost going crazy. It would be strange if she wasn't. Chu Yang actually showed her this. Really good. Chu Yang could even use this method, but where did Chu Yang get this from? From this, they concluded, before they met Chu Yang's life was absolutely wonderful, and definitely the most wonderful in the world. Chu Hang, why can't this divine bird watch? The parrot was also going crazy. Hao Dong and the others' expressions were too strange. Their reactions were too miraculous. The parrot couldn't bear the siege of curiosity. Haha, it's for your own good that I'm not letting you see it. You're still too young. Chu Yang couldn't stop laughing. When Hao Dong and the others heard this, they subconsciously nodded their heads. Obviously, they agreed with Chu Yang's opinion that this parrot was really not suitable to look at. #yuan %%. The parrot immediately unleashed its divine ability of the 3-character classic, and began to spew nonsense. Chu Hang, it said exasperatedly, if you have a story, why don't you tell it to me? Are you trying to offend me? It was useless. The parrot added, curiosity killed the cat. Chu Hang is trying to murder this divine bird. This sentence was deeply felt by everyone present. They were so curious that they could die. Brother-in-law, what kind of story is it? Can you tell it to me? The little lowly Ji Yinin's weak voice came out. Ji Yinmeng was scared out of her wits. She was already miserable enough. If her sister was also like that, then it would really be over. Quick, take her away immediately. Ji Yinmeng screamed in panic. She ordered the people around her to forcibly take Ji Yinyin away. Haha. Ji Yinmeng's expression, Chu Yang really wanted to laugh to death. He wouldn't go so far as to be so ruthless to a little lowly. He wasn't the only one who was affected. Ji Yinmeng's panicked reaction was enough to make the parrot explode with curiosity. It screamed. Chu Hang, the parrot fluttered and flew over. Its spit sprayed on Chu Yang's face. This divine bird is about to die. If you don't tell this divine bird will fight it out with you. Fluttering. The parrot fluttered up and down like an ant on a hot pan. Its feathers fluttered in the air. The scene was very funny. Therefore, Chu Yang had to ponder. He knew the parrot too well. If he didn't let it know, it would cause a lot of trouble. Chapter 1323. Chu Yang soon had an answer to the question of whether or not Little Bastard wanted to be a scourge. This guy typically needed to be enlightened in the area of men and women. It was necessary to let it have the correct 3 views in this area. Therefore, Chu Yang directly used a spiritual clip to broadcast the educational clip to the parrot. The parrot was very intelligent. Although the version it saw was too serious, it still instantly understood the supreme Tao within. Its eyes widened like copper bells, and its mouth opened as if it was being torn apart. So it was this kind of story. So it was this kind of supernatural story. Amazing. Chu Hang was amazing. It was completely stunned, completely shocked. The entire bird was petrified to express its infinite amazement, infinite worship, and admiration. Then, ha ha ha. Its laughter was like a super big balloon that had been punctured and exploded. It was released all at once. Aya. The parrot was laughing too crazily in midair. It directly fell down and chewed on its food. It looked very funny. However, it didn't care about its embarrassment at all. It laughed so hard that it rolled on the ground. It finally understood why Chu Yang was laughing crazily. It was unavoidable. I knew this bitch bird would be like this. Kui Xinhu and the others were speechless. Only Jiang Fanchun and her brother were still confused. They were very much looking forward to the answer. Ji Yinmeng was already very angry. When Chu Yang shared his joy with the parrot and publicized her shame, she almost fainted from anger. She went crazy again. I'll kill you. Chu Yang took the initiative to attack. His spiritual power transformed into a dozen spiritual divine spears, which directly pierced towards Ji Yinmeng. At the same time, he used the heaven patching seal to form a heavenly barrier to defend. Ji Yinmeng's spiritual body appeared. Her long skirt fluttered in the wind. She was really a peerless beauty, but her murderous aura surged. Her whole body shone like a small sun. She vowed to behead Chu Yang and wash away her shame. Bang bang bang. Her slender, jade-like hands struck down, and the spirit spears were all destroyed one after another. This made Chu Yang a little surprised, and he couldn't bring himself to smile. This girl's spirit power was indeed terrifying. It seemed to have already surpassed the law phase realm, and it was very likely that she had reached the nirvana realm. Don't waste so much energy. Give her something more ruthless. Chu Yang seemed to have put his life on the line. He roared and shouted, "Miss Ji, you forced me to do this. I'll fight you to the death." A well in the blue dome of heaven, wings spread across the sky. Waves after waves of spiritual energy rushed out, covering the sky and covering the earth, drowning out Ji Yinmeng as they continuously threw out killing weapons. At the same time, they transformed into a cage, wanting to trap Ji Yinmeng within. Ji Yinmeng's spiritual body staggered in mid-air and fell down, beautifully avoiding the cage. She was both angry and embarrassed. Her entire body trembled, and that huge amount of mental fragments caused her snow-white neck to turn completely red. However, the murderous aura in her eyes was even more threatening. She couldn't wait to bite Chu Yang to death. The other party was too despicable and shameless. She had never seen such a shameless person before. He was so hateful that she could almost grind her teeth to pieces. Wonderful, truly wonderful. Truly wonderful. I have such an ultimate move, yet you can actually dodge it like this. It can be considered as an eye-opener for me. Chu Yang continued to ridicule her. He vowed to make her go crazy, and he wouldn't stop until she went crazy. Ji Yinmeng didn't respond. The next moment, whoosh, her spiritual body erupted with an enormous soul light, and she directly rushed into Chu Yang's spiritual world. This girl isn't really crazy, right? Chu Yang was greatly frightened. Rushing into his spiritual world like this was no different from courting death. However, he quickly realized that something was wrong. His perception was distorted even more, and illusions began to appear in his spiritual world. The scene of him and Ji Yinmeng entangling with each other emerged. He was triggered by the scene, and that was why his imagination was running wild. Ah, 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 ah. Chapter 1324. That was close. Chu Yang broke out in a cold sweat. He almost fell for it just now. This girl was indeed unique in terms of spiritual cultivation. She was actually able to turn the tables when she barged into his spiritual world. If it wasn't for his luck, he might have been killed by this woman. At the very least, he would have been severely injured. There was no doubt that her spiritual power had reached the nirvana realm. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to do it. This made him serious. His opponent's spiritual power was too strong. If he didn't use all of his energy to deal with it, he might really die. Kill. Chu Yang was no longer merciless. Boom. His spiritual body also appeared. He threw a punch. The spiritual fist shone and the sound of a dragon's roar echoed. It was no different from driving his physical body. The terrifying power of his physical body seemed to have burst out. Crack. It was as if he had broken through the vacuum and ascended. The illusion that Ji Yinmeng had set up in his spiritual world shattered like a mirror. Ji Yinmeng was shocked. She never thought that Chu Yang's spiritual power would be so strong. She hurriedly responded. Then, her eyes were unusually cold as she used her ultimate move. Swish. In Chu Yang's spiritual world, she suddenly soared into the sky like a fairy from outer space. Her sword pierced toward him. Kai kai kai. At the same time, streak after streak of immortal light flew out from her body, turning into one after another herself, all of them incomparably beautiful. Her face was flushed, giving her a type of seductive charm right now, making others feel intoxicated. Every Ji Yinmeng was like a fairy that had descended to the mortal world. They were holy and elegant, like a group of fairies that had descended to the mortal world to eliminate demons. They attacked Chu Yang together. It was impossible to guard against them. Clang, clang, clang. All of the attacks landed on the heavenly barrier. Chu Yang was only able to resist for a short while, but the heavenly barrier was quickly shattered. She's actually so terrifying in my spiritual world. His heart sank and his face completely changed. Perhaps the spiritual power of his opponent was not only at the nirvana realm, but also at the life and death realm. If that was the case, it was too terrifying. No wonder the other party was so arrogant and rude just now. She did have the ability to do so. He was only in the transcendence realm, but he had the mental strength of a life and death realm cultivator. Anyone would be proud of that. Such a person was definitely a stunning genius. Even if Chu Yang completely unleashed his mental strength, he wouldn't be a match for him. Boom. He was still holding back. At first, he was not willing to reveal his trump card. Now, he was not willing, because he was not willing. Soul Devour, Soul Slayer, Arrest. He immediately unleashed 3 types of soul techniques. As he began to devour and refine his opponent's psychic power, he was also capturing and killing his opponent's psychic power. Of course, there was still the biggest killer move. He displayed his shamelessness to the extreme, and even did not forget to shout, live-action version, Chu Ji dedicates himself to the cause of art. The names were very long, and there were even more mental fragments. The man and woman entangled in them were both Chu Yang and Ji Yinmeng. You shameless bastard, you lowly bastard, I'm going to tear you into pieces. Ji Yinmeng was like a delicate woman who was cooking for the first time. She screamed as she slaughtered the chicken. She was indeed almost driven crazy. The super shameless, super bastard in front of her was so frivolous and blasphemous. She was completely at a loss. Chu Yang did not think much of it and laughed. You have the face to say that this is your choice. Moreover, you can stab me with a sword, but I can't cut you with a knife. Is this a joke? Then, he shouted again, Chu Ji, you haven't had enough. Go for the second time. Heavenly Maiden scatters flowers. Ji Yinmeng screamed and used a vicious move. Chapter 1325. Chu Yang's expression changed as he shouted, Slaughter Seal. He also unleashed thousands of swords and met the attack with a storm of weapons. In an instant, the sound of swords clashing could not be heard. However, he was no match for the attack and was instantly injured. His spiritual body was riddled with holes and was dripping with blood. At this moment, he was certain that this woman was extremely terrifying. Her spiritual energy had definitely reached the life and death realm. Therefore, although he had an absolute advantage in his spiritual world, he was still heavily injured by the opponent. It wasn't that he was inferior, but that he still lacked time. Ji Yinmeng was even more shocked. She had held nothing back, but even so, she was only able to injure her opponent. She could recover from such a degree of mental injury with just a short rest. Her spiritual energy was at the life and death realm, while that shameless bastard was only at the spirit stage. This was like a life and death realm battle against a spirit stage. She could easily kill him with a raise of her hand. However, this was not the case at all. Her heart was in turmoil and she was unable to calm down. Her little sister Ji Yinin's warning before the battle started wasn't without reason. Bastard, you're very strong, but even in your spiritual world, I'm still the ruler. You will definitely die. Due to the shock, Ji Yinmeng had already recovered her calm. She no longer screamed and her voice had also become much calmer. She was also preparing her killing move to completely kill Chu Yang. Buzz, buzz, buzz. From the spiritual body that she had manifested, a powerful fluctuation rushed out and formed a huge storm. Behind her head, a divine halo appeared. It was as if she was a god or an immortal. It was incomparably sacred and possessed a great pressure. At the same time, a shadow appeared behind her. Although it was blurry, one could only faintly see a peerless figure with peerless elegance. As soon as it appeared, Chu Yang's spiritual world buzzed and suddenly expanded. It was as if a giant had been stuffed into a narrow ant hole. What the hell? Chu Yang was shocked. Do I really have to use the 7 soul origins of the two of us? Or even the Destiny twins? This was his greatest secret. How could he be willing to let his opponent know about it? If the enemy knew about it, they would have to kill him. His mind raced as he chose a shortcut. He secretly used the Godfiend twins and visualized the Void Assassin martial soul. After that, he chuckled and said, "Little girl, it seems like you're really pissed off by me. You don't even know that you're in my illusion. I can only remind you properly. Otherwise, teasing you is really boring. TMPH, who are you trying to fool, you rascal? How could Ji Yinmeng believe him? Even if Chu Yang's illusion technique was better than hers, it was not an illusion. She was good at it, so how could she not be able to distinguish it? Hee. Chu Yang just smiled. If it didn't make you feel incomparably real, then wouldn't my illusions be too weak? With that, he added, take a look at your physical body. You're already in my arms. No, I'm already sitting on your pair of long legs. I'm feeling the beauty of your body, I feel so soft. Chu Yang put the tip of his finger on his nose and sniffed lightly. He revealed an extremely intoxicated expression. So fragrant. Ji Yinmeng was surprised. She sensed again and sneered. You rascal, you're about to die, and you still want to struggle? Keep dreaming. Hee. Chu Yang's expression did not change. You're wearing a white doo-doo with a little white rabbit embroidered on it. Am I wrong? Swish. Ji Yinmeng's expression changed. She unconsciously separated her consciousness and rushed out from Chu Yang's world of consciousness. Just as she sensed she did not know how many times she screamed, but each scream was as sharp as an awl, almost piercing through Chu Yang's spiritual body. Chapter 1326. Phew. Chu Yang's spiritual body let out a long sigh of relief. I've finally fooled this girl. I hope no one can find out that I've secretly used the divine demon twins this time. Because he had visualized his void assassin martial soul, the first thing he did was to go into stealth mode. If one didn't have an extremely high cultivation, they wouldn't be able to detect it at all. However, there were many capable people in the outer yard of the Sky Academy, such as the little Zen master Fa Zhao. Therefore, he wasn't absolutely sure. At this moment, the outside world was in an uproar. After Ji Yinmeng broke into Chu Yang's spiritual world and formed a confrontation, the people outside couldn't see the situation at all. Many people thought that he had completely fallen into Ji Yinmeng's illusion and would be killed by Ji Yinmeng in the end. However, everyone suddenly saw that Chu Yang had appeared beside Ji Yinmeng without them noticing. His action made the animals in the Sky Academy almost go crazy. What did they see? What did they see? Chu Yang, the bastard who deserved to be struck by lightning, actually went to see what kind of undergarment the fairy was wearing. Was this real? Is this real? Am I seeing things? It should be an illusion. Wild Dog deliberately provoked us. Yes, how could Wild Dog split into two? The blasphemous fairy must be fake. Yes, Wild Dog has already fallen into the blasphemous fairy's illusion. What else can he do? He can only wait for death. Waves of shock followed by a great clamor. Many people simply could not believe the scene before their eyes. Although the Wild Dog's movements were very elegant, as much as possible hidden, and as small as possible, but what was done, and what was done, the Wild Dog was indeed profaning a beauty. Therefore, many people chose not to believe it. The reason was very good. After all, it was impossible for Chu Yang to be split into two. One of them must be fake. Chu Yang broke everyone's last fantasy. He shrugged and spread out his hands to show off to the crowd. Everyone, I have no choice. She insisted on showing it to me. What do you think I can do? Impossible. This is absolutely impossible. How could Fairy G lose to a wild dog? This must be fake. Even if Fairy G lost to this wild dog, how could she fall for a lowly dog like him? He's just a lowly dog. The students of the outer court of the Sky Academy could not accept such a result. Kaka. Silver Dragon gritted his teeth, and the veins on his face throbbed. He had always admired Ji Yinmeng in his heart, but he was very reserved and did not express it so obviously. At this moment, Chu Yang was actually blaspheming the person he loved. Young Zen Master Fa Zhao was also stunned and did not know what to say. This was definitely the most bizarre scene he had ever seen. The more they scolded, the more they gritted their teeth. Chu Yang sneered in his heart. Everyone, you know what it means to show off affection. This is what it means to show off affection. My little Meng Meng, but let me tell you that she belongs to me only from now on. Please be careful. After all, she is a married woman. After a pause, he cupped his hands to the crowd and said helplessly, there is no other way. Although I refused again and again, Little Meng Meng insisted on sticking to me. If I don't agree, she will commit suicide. If I don't provoke you to death, I will change my surname to yours. Chapter 1327. Bastard. Shameless. Wild dog, keep dreaming. How could Fairy G possibly take a fancy to you? The crowd was stirred up. Many of the animals were so agitated that their eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. They were so agitated that they almost pounced on Chu Yang. Their spittle was like a torrential rain that could drown Chu Yang. Be angry. Be jealous. It's best if you die of anger and jealousy. Chu Yang continued to show off. He shrugged his shoulders again and said, I know that you're heartbroken, but this is something that can't be helped. Everyone, Little Meng Meng has taken a fancy to me. What can I do? As for your injuries, I can only ask you to find a secluded corner and lick your wound. Wild dog, I'm going to kill you. You damned slut, you should marry a bitch like you. Bitch, he's not even worthy. Haha. Chu Yang laughed even more happily. Of course, he still wanted to continue. Everyone, I know that your hatred for me is deeper than the sea and higher than the sky. Now, it's the most appropriate word to use to describe you. But please hate me. Even if Little Meng Meng forcefully gave herself to me, as a man, I should bear all the consequences. He patted his chest loudly. I ask you to hate me and resent me as much as you can. As long as you don't vent your anger on my Little Meng Meng, it's fine. What provocative words, especially Little Meng Meng, were simply heart-wrenching. Boom. The crowd exploded again. Many people rushed forward, but Chu Yang didn't even look at them. He raised his hand and directly slapped them to death, causing the crowd to become silent. I ask for everyone's understanding again, Chu Yang said with a smile. In order to prevent her from committing suicide, I have to say that I am her man, so I can't die yet. In the end, he said, oh, I almost forgot. Little Meng Meng repeatedly emphasized that we must use a rope to tie the two of us together. Chu Yang set up an extremely simple formation, the yin-yang formation. There were only two array seals. One entered Ji Yinmeng's body, while the other entered his body. Soon after, the two of them were connected by a rope of light. Brother-in-law, can we keep a low profile? Ji Yinyin had already realized that something was wrong. Her sister should have lost miserably. Chu Yang smiled evilly. Sister-in-law, do you want your sister to commit suicide? It's not that brother-in-law doesn't want to keep a low profile, but he has no other choice. Wahaha. The parrot laughed so hard that it rolled around on the ground. It didn't know Chu Hang's pettiness, and knew that Chu Hang had succeeded in provoking everyone. The so-called Ji Yinmeng shamelessly clinging onto Chu Hang and even risking her life for Chu Hang must be fake, absolutely fake. Just these two sentences were enough for the parrot to laugh for a year. Chu Hang was too cheap. How could he say such shameless words? It had no choice but to be convinced. Although Kui Xinhu and the other two didn't know the specific situation, and they were not as sure as the parrot, they knew that Chu Yang was showing off after taking advantage of Little Meng 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 Meng. He wanted to anger the animals of the Sky Academy to death. Chapter 1328. Waha. Chu Yang pretended to blush. He pretended to be bashful. He was so narcissistic. He was so shameless. Moreover, he was speaking in such a manner. His manner of speaking and so on made the parrot laugh crazily. It almost laughed itself to death. It rolled back and forth on the ground. Kui Xinhu and the other two couldn't help but laugh. As for Ban Sungyang and the others, they were speechless and shocked. They even sighed, so there really are such people in this world. They can really live like this. Ah! The crazy screams were like thousands of arrows being shot at the same time, densely packed, as if piercing through everyone's ears. The sharpness made everyone feel extremely uncomfortable. In an instant, they could feel how much Ji Yinmeng had broken down. At this moment, Ji Yinmeng's mental strength finally returned. Hearing Chu Yang's shameless words, she was really going crazy, and this time, her innocence was really gone. She was really finished. The crazy Ji Yinmeng naturally told everyone that everything Chu Yang had said just now was a lie. But what was the use of that? The beautiful woman had already been defiled. The only thing left in the horny students' minds was anger. Their eyes almost turned red, and their gazes were like sharp mouths, wishing they could bite off a piece of Chu Yang's flesh. Ha ha. The parrot's laughter temporarily stopped. However, when it saw Ji Yinmeng's crumbling expression, it couldn't help but laugh again. It laughed so hard that it rolled on the ground again. It was convinced that Ji Yinmeng had been cheated by Chu Hang. Hee hee. Chu Yang smirked and stood in front of Ji Yinmeng's spiritual body. He opened his arms and said, "Little Meng Meng, you haven't seen me for a while and you've already gone crazy. Am I not here? What are you afraid of? Come on, let me give you a big hug. Let me tell you, my embrace is extremely warm." Ji Yinmeng had never seen such a shameless person. All the attention fell on Chu Yang's doppelganger. No one noticed his original body. When Ji Yinmeng left his spiritual world, his original body completely disappeared into the void. When Chu Yang blocked Ji Yinmeng's spiritual body, his original body and doppelganger merged again. Ji Yinmeng would never have thought of such a thing, and if Chu Yang hadn't said it, Ji Yinmeng would never have known that she had been completely deceived by Chu Yang. Chu Yang's illusory technique was indeed not bad. He was already like this when he was in the Eastern Wasteland. But he had already stagnated. So, how could he deceive a master of illusory techniques like Yin Meng? It was just that if it was too realistic, it would be easy to think that it was caused by a high-level illusion technique. A high-level illusion technique expert could create an illusion world that was no different from reality, just like Ji Yinmeng. That was why she was also deceived. Of course, Chu Yang's divine devil twins was the most important factor. Swish. Ji Yinmeng's spiritual body didn't have a physical body, so how could he block it? She instantly disappeared. Although Chu Yang had grasped the route that her spiritual body would take to return to her physical body, he couldn't stop it. In a flash, Chu Yang's spirit chi turned into a spirit rope and tied Ji Yinmeng's arms, torso, and legs. After that, he directly sat on Ji Yinmeng's slender legs and raised his fist to smash her head, wanting to smash it into mush. "Brother-in-law, please have mercy." Ji Yinyin was terrified and screamed at the top of her lungs. At this time, she was really regretting it. Why did she provoke Chu Yang, this great demon king? Why did she have to worry about her butt? Chapter 1329. Chu Yang, how dare you? Silver Dragon's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. He attacked Chu Yang as if he had gone mad. Dragon roars could be heard. 9 silver dragons were shot out by him. Like 9 drills, they stirred up a gust of wind and drilled towards Chu Yang. "You're courting death." The anger in Chu Yang's heart exploded. Swoosh. He gave up on Ji Yinmeng and used the 5 elements chaotic steps to go straight for Silver Dragon. At the same time, because Chu Yang moved aside, the Silver Dragon drilled towards Ji Yinmeng. Silver Dragon was scared out of his wits and immediately controlled it. But at this moment, Chu Yang was already close to him and punched him from behind. So fast. Silver Dragon was shocked. He didn't have time to block. A Silver Dragon rushed out from behind him, but before it could turn into a drill, it was destroyed by Chu Yang's fist. Chu Yang's fist went straight for Silver Dragon. How is this possible? The dragon formed by my Dharma power is so weak. Silver Dragon was also in the Dharma characteristic realm, but his Dharma power was like a piece of paper in front of Chu Yang and was instantly destroyed. After this thought, Chu Yang's fist was like a drill that drilled into Silver Dragon's body and pierced through his entire body. The terrifying destructive power broke his meridians inch by inch, his flesh and blood were torn and minced, and his bones were all broken. His internal organs were also about to be minced. "Do you think you're the only one who knows how to drill?" Chu Yang sneered. He didn't have a good impression of Silver Dragon at all. No matter what the reason was, Silver Dragon was standing on the opposite side of him, which meant that he was his enemy. It was either him or him who died. Swoosh. Suddenly, Chu Yang felt Silver Dragon's flesh and blood squirming like a dragon. Then, he immediately rushed forward and pulled away. During this process, Chu Yang clearly saw a bloody hole. He even saw Ji Yinmeng's beautiful face through that bloody hole. If Yin Longzi threw another punch, he would definitely die, but Chu Yang couldn't care less. Shua. He went straight back and threw a punch at Ji Yinmeng's head. However, he immediately felt an invisible obstruction, and this obstruction was getting stronger and stronger. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The space between Ji Yinmeng's eyebrows glowed, and rolling spiritual power surged out continuously, forming all kinds of barriers, and finally forming a shield. Can you block it? Die. Bang, bang, bang. Chu Yang used the 9 transformations and exploded out with 180,000 dragon strength, destroying everything in his path. The shield formed from his mental energy also exploded without any suspense, but this still bought some time for Ji Yinmeng. She rolled away and avoided the punch. Rumble. Chu Yang's fist smashed into the ground, and the earth exploded. Dust soared into the sky and rushed towards Chu Yang's face. The wind was fierce, but Chu Yang suppressed it all. Do you think you can escape? Every punch was deadly, and every move was extremely ruthless. He didn't have the slightest bit of protective feelings for the fairer sex. This made the parrot speechless again and again, and it secretly said in its heart, Chu Hang is really ruthless. Could it be that he didn't think of keeping such a beautiful woman in his room? It unconsciously said, is Chu Hang a man or not? Apart from Ban Sungyang and the others nodding, Kui Xinhu and the other 2 only had disdain. There were plenty of fish in the sea, so why would they lack Ji Yinmeng? Since she was an enemy, then she wasn't a woman. To still hold back, it was really ridiculous. Ji Yinyin was completely frightened. Brother-in-law, that's your wife, how can you be so ruthless? At the same time, she also attacked, and it was extremely fierce. What brother-in-law? Chapter 1330. Wang. Chu Yang coldly stared at Ji Yinyin. That emotionless gaze instantly caused Ji Yinyin to scream. She frantically fled, like a little sheep that had encountered a fierce tiger. However, when she realized that Chu Yang did not chase after her, she immediately stopped. She was not far away, ready to attack Chu Yang at any time. Bang! 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 Ji Yinmeng was extremely worried about Ji Yinin's safety. Chu Yang was definitely a ruthless person. He would not show the slightest bit of mercy to his enemies. In her anxiety, she completely exploded. All the spirit ropes tied to her body exploded, and she regained her freedom. Rumble. In an instant, a thunder hammer appeared in her lily-white hand. It emitted rolling thunder. Lightning flashed and enveloped her entire body, making her look like a thunder goddess. The entire audience was silent as they quietly watched. Ji Yinmeng broke free. This battle seemed to have returned to its starting point. When Chu Yang saw the thunder hammer in Ji Yinmeng's hand, his eyes could not help but narrow. Nirvana Realm's thunder hammer. Tumph, are you trying to intimidate me? Chu Yang coldly sneered in his heart. Dong. The earth was like a giant drum being beaten. Chu Yang took a step forward and used the 1,000 lights 10,000 shadows art. A dark line directly entered the ground, and he was about to attack Ji Yinmeng. However, just as Ji Yinmeng was about to use her full strength to deal with him. Swish! Chu Yang was clearly rushing forward, but he strangely rushed behind and went straight for Ji Yinyin. Not good. Ji Yinmeng's expression changed. She was extremely anxious and frantically chased after him. Ji Yinyin screamed. She ran away while shouting, brother-in-law, I'm your sister-in-law. I'll allow you to take my sister and then take me. Unfortunately, Chu Yang didn't reply at all, causing the mischievous expression on Ji Yinin's little face to vanish completely. She was very clearly aware that she'd offended someone she shouldn't have offended this time. Bastard, your opponent is me. Ji Yinmeng angrily roared. Her speed was extremely fast, but she realized that she couldn't catch up with Chu Yang at all. She crazily urged her spiritual aura to increase her speed. Bang! Suddenly, a hidden line gushed out from the ground. Like a rope that tripped a horse, Yinmeng was tripped and fell to the ground uncontrollably. Her head directly smashed through the ground. She was a fairy, but at this moment, she was in an extremely sorry state. Since you want to die first, I'll satisfy you. Chu Yang's plan succeeded, and he immediately returned. At the same time, he controlled the hidden line and heavily tied Ji Yinmeng up. Strands of silk shot out from his 10 fingers and wrapped around Ji Yinmeng's waist like threads. Rumble. At the critical moment of life and death, Ji Yinmeng's reaction was extremely fast. Within the lightning hammer, a huge surge of lightning energy surged out, forming a lightning blade, cutting off all of the projectile lines and immediately regaining her freedom. It had to be said that Ji Yinmeng was indeed a heaven-blessed girl. If it was a normal person, Chu Yang would have already beheaded them before they could break free. Try cutting off this one. After setting up the yin-yang formation, a strand of light appeared again. One end was on Chu Yang's body, while the other end was on Ji Yinmeng's body. Ji Yinmeng was shocked. She tried to cut it off, but the strand of light connected again. Fortunately, it couldn't hurt her. It only tangled her and Chu Yang together, making it difficult for her to break free. Everyone was dumbfounded. Chu Yang and Ji Yinmeng's story was too rich. These two people were connected. Let go. Ji Yinmeng gritted her teeth. As a fairy, everything that happened before was already embarrassing enough. Just now, she was tripped and lost a lot of face. If she tangled with a hooligan like this, she was afraid that even her last bit of dignity would be gone. Interesting. You still have the mood to think about those messy things. Chu Yang sneered. Everything he did was just to get close to her. Once he got close, his strong body could suppress Ji Yinmeng at any time and kill her. Chapter 1331. Rumble. Ji Yinmeng attacked. Her delicate body burst out with a holy light, which shone together with the violent lightning. She performed a secret method, waved the thunder hammer, and struck a bolt of lightning at Chu Yang. Chu Yang was least afraid of lightning. He dodged the main lightning, broke through the remaining power of the lightning, and raised his fist to punch. Bang, bang, bang. After several collisions, the two separated. Chu Yang actually failed to blow up Ji Yinmeng directly. He was slightly shocked. This woman is also a body cultivator. Although Ji Yinmeng's body cultivation was far inferior to Chu Yang's, she could still compete with Chu Yang's formation when Chu Yang did not use his full strength. I admit defeat. How about we stop here? Ji Yinmeng finally realized Chu Yang's intention. After several collisions, half of her body was numb and the bones in her hands were cracked. She was very frightened. How can it be so easy? Chu Yang refused to let her go. He sneered. If you had admitted defeat just now, I could have spared your life. But it's too late now. Your physical body is indeed strong, but how long do you think it will take for me to unlock the seal on my body and restore my cultivation to the Dharma characteristic realm? Ji Yinmeng was very angry. She had been so molested by Chu Yang. Now she even admitted defeat, but he still refused to let her go. All of a sudden, the animals of the Sky Academy were excited. Fairy is a fairy. Now she is finally angry. From the very beginning, Fairy Ji shouldn't have sealed her cultivation. Wild Dog didn't put any restriction on the little witch at all. Otherwise, the little witch would have died just now. This demon dog is really very cunning. Chu Yang turned a deaf ear and was even more unmoved. It's enough to kill you before I unlock the seal. Kill me. You are a little too conceited. Ji Yinmeng was even more furious. Was this still a man? How could he be so unforgiving? Haha. Chu Yang laughed loudly. From the beginning until now, when have I not been conceited? But what happened in the end? He attacked and used the formation to pull Ji Yinmeng over. He raised his fists and launched a barrage of attacks. Bang bang bang. Ji Yinmeng was extremely sullen. Her strength was not as good as Chu Yang's. Even though she had the Nirvana Realm Thunder Hammer in her hand, she couldn't use it to its full potential. Her Thunder Hammer had completely turned into a shield. Chu Yang was extremely cunning, and the footwork he used was extremely exquisite. Once he got close to her, she would be exhausted to deal with him. She was constantly in danger, and there were a few times when the Thunder Hammer in her hand was almost taken away, or it was almost knocked out of her hand. She kept dodging, and the situation was worrisome. At this time, someone wanted to be a hero and save the damsel in distress. He stealthily approached and then launched a sneak attack. You are courting death. Chu Yang was furious. He temporarily gave up on Ji Yinmeng and went straight for the person, blowing him up with a punch. Ji Yinmeng wanted to take this opportunity to escape, but she found that she was pulled by the light chain. How could she escape? With a whoosh, Chu Yang returned. Before he could make a move, he heard the little Zen master Fa Jiao say, "Almsgiver Chu, let's stop here. Monk, you are different from the people of the East Continent. You don't discriminate against the people of the Eastern Wilderness. I will give you face." Chu Yang was speaking from the bottom of his heart. The little Zen master Fa Jiao was definitely not a fool. His nonsense was reasonable, but the little Zen master Fa Jiao might not have believed it. He just knew why Chu Yang was doing this, so he didn't interfere. The little Zen master Fa Jiao was a kind person. Chu Yang had a good impression of him, but this matter couldn't end like this. "But monk, this girl wants to escape unscathed after failing to kill someone. Don't you think the price is too low?" The little Zen master Fa Jiao was speechless. The other party's reasoning was irrefutable. If Ji Yinmeng defeated Chu Yang, she would not spare his life. "Girl, I will give you a chance. Be my maid for 3 years. You will wash my clothes, cook my meals, and clean my room." Everyone was stunned. Chu Yang was really daydreaming. He actually wanted a fairy like Ji Yinmeng to be his maid. Was he crazy? How could Ji Yinmeng accept this? Her snow-white skin and perfect face showed a trace of coldness. He actually wanted her to be his maid. For a fairy like her, this was not only disrespectful, but also disrespectful. However, the other party dared not do anything. "You are delusional." Chapter 1332. The two of them fought again. Ji Yinmeng was in a passive position. She was suppressed all the time and almost had no strength to fight back. Swish. In the end, she tried to escape again like the fairy of the ninth heaven, but she couldn't get rid of Chu Yang at all. Of course, she had her own ideas. She wanted to buy time to break the seal on her body, or ask someone to join forces to suppress Chu Yang, such as Xia Wanjin. But where could she find Xia Wanjin? In an instant, the field was in chaos. Chu Yang built the capital Taoist temple, Hertian Longzi, and now chased after Fairy Ji. This was definitely a big event that would cause a great sensation. However, many people found that the teachers of the Sky Academy, who had been there for a long time, didn't intend to do anything. Ji Yinmeng ran all the way into the lake not far away. She walked on the waves and flew all the way. She was holding on. Once she broke the seal on her body, Chu Yang would be dead. However, during this period, she was in great danger. Chu Yang was too fast. Even without the binding of the light chain, she couldn't get rid of him. In particular, Chu Yang's strength was simply too horrible. Every time she met him, she felt very uncomfortable. "Haha, Fairy Ji, it's a blessing for you to be my maid. Don't worry. I won't let you have a baby. I just want you to massage my shoulders and legs, serve me tea, wash me, and so on. What are you hesitating for?" Chu Yang teased Ji Yinmeng like a cat playing with a mouse. Since he said that he would give face to the little Zen master Fa Jiao, he would certainly do so. Otherwise, Ji Yinmeng wouldn't have been alive until now. Yinmeng almost wanted to commit suicide when she heard that. Was it as simple as massaging his legs and shoulders? This shameless bastard was in the mood. If he wanted her to have a baby, she would have to have one. "By the way, I have to know the situation, or I will be at a disadvantage. How is your cooking? Don't tell me that the food you cook is poison. Also, do you know how to sew? Do you know how to dress people? I won't force you to learn the art of tea, zither, chess, calligraphy, and painting. After all, it's too difficult for a maidservant. I'm very considerate of you." Ji Yinmeng almost flipped out. She really wanted to fight this bastard to the death and destroy both jade and stone. "Don't worry. Although your face is not bad and your figure is very good, I promise that I will never have a child with you because I am very worried that my child will be stupid in the future." What Chu Yang meant was that she had lost her mind and was afraid that she would give birth to a stupid child with him. It was simply intolerable. Ji Yinmeng's eyes shot out a divine light. She turned around and glared at him fiercely. However, when she felt the pain in her delicate hand and thought of that abnormal strength, she had no choice but to run away. Little girl, I've said everything I can, and I've even told you the exact reason why I don't want to have children with you. Yet, you still dare to run away. If you don't obediently allow yourself to be captured, when I catch you later, I'll directly send you to someone else and make you give birth to their child. Chuyang didn't want to waste any more time. Otherwise, when Ji Yinmeng undid the seal on her body and recovered her cultivation to the transcendence realm, not only would all his previous efforts be wasted, he would also have to spend a lot of effort. Ji Yinmeng's speed became even faster, but how could she be faster than Chuyang? The two of them once again exchanged blows in the lake. However, in just an instant, Ji Yinmeng suffered a great loss. The thunder hammer in her hand was directly sent flying. She was very sullen. She had a Nirvana realm treasure, but she couldn't display its power. Whoosh! Chuyang absorbed the thunder hammer and put it into his bag. Then, he shouted, "My maidservant, where are you going? If you want to destroy both jade and stone with me, I'll fulfill your wish." Ji Yinmeng's expression was cold. She stopped running away and suddenly turned around to face Chuyang with all her strength. The time needed to undo the seal was too long. If she continued to run like this, she definitely wouldn't be able to hold on until the seal was undone. In addition, there was naturally no reason why she was called a fairy. She was extremely talented. In a true battle of realms, how could she be inferior to this scoundrel? Her choice just now fell into the hands of others. However, reality was cruel. In this exchange, even if she tried her best to not let Shameless get close to her, she still suffered a great loss. "Ha, little girl, sing conquer for me. This lord is in a good mood. I'll open up your conception and governing vessels and raise your IQ. Then, I'll take you in as a concubine." Chapter 1333. Chuyang and Ji Yinmeng had different thoughts, but they all had the same thought: Ji Yinmeng had been suppressed and beaten without any resistance. Ji Yinmeng shouldn't have sealed her cultivation in the first place. She let Wild Dog take advantage of her. Wild Dog seems to be invincible in the same realm. Devil Dog is a level 6 array master after all, so his spiritual power is naturally not ordinary. Although Ji Yinmeng's spiritual power is also very strong, she still suffered a great loss. It was more than just a great loss. They didn't know the result of the spiritual confrontation between Chuyang and Ji Yinmeng, but judging from Ji Yinmeng's screams and expression of collapse, it was definitely not an ordinary loss. Otherwise, Ji Yinmeng wouldn't have lost her composure like that. Besides, Wild Dog was laughing like crazy. Based on this, they could imagine that it was definitely not an ordinary despicable method. Then Wild Dog's despicable method made their imaginations run wild. Wild Dog was too cunning, despicable, shameless, and despicable. There was no doubt about it. Every single one of them was resentful, but even more so, they were jealous. How much did they wish that they were Wild Dogs? Being able to degrade a fairy for once was something they yearned for even in their dreams. However, they could only think about it, and could only be envious, jealous, and hateful. On the lake, Ji Yinmeng suffered a great blow. She was the supreme talent of an ancient family in Zhongzhou. She was the apple of her family's eye and was regarded as a fairy. Because she couldn't stand the harassment of those young masters in Zhongzhou, she hid in a corner in Dongju. However, she was regarded as a dog in Dongju. She was molested by the natives of the natives. She fought desperately and was completely suppressed in the same realm. Just thinking about it made her so depressed that she almost vomited blood. The bigger the gap between her status and Chuyang's, the more uncomfortable she felt now. She also felt endless shame and indignation. They had only exchanged 7 or 8 moves, but not only had she been beaten 3 to 4 times by this shameless bastard, she had also been hit on the back by his claws. The pain penetrated to the bone marrow, and the bones in her body felt like they were about to collapse. With a splash, she was directly stuffed into the lake. The waves rose to the sky, and the water column was 300 feet high. Chuyang was also surprised. He had promised little Zen master Fa Zhao that he would spare Yin Meng's life. Although he didn't burst out with 9 times the power, He burst out with the power of the third transformation of the primitive martial skill with every strike, which was at least 60,000 dragons of power. At the same time, it wasn't just strength. When he attacked, he also used spirit chi and various moves. His attacks were extremely shocking. If it was someone else, not to mention the 9th level of the spirit stage, even a 9th level soul fusion stage cultivator would be severely injured by his punch. However, this woman's body was like a ball of cotton wool. To a large extent, she disintegrated his astonishing strength and neutralized the impact of all kinds of spirit energy. During the fierce battle, although he wanted to spare Ji Yinmeng's life, he wasn't stupid enough to show mercy to the fairer sex and beat Ji Yinmeng half to death at every turn. Boom! A wave of 50 feet high surged. Ji Yinmeng's entire body was drenched. Her dress was even more fitting to her delicate body, outlining her curves and perfect silhouette even more vividly. Ji Yinmeng was known as a fairy. Not to mention her strength, her appearance was definitely something that few people could compare to. This caused Chu Yang's heart to become restless. Unknowingly, his mouth became dry. He finally understood why men would always show mercy to women. This had nothing to do with intelligence. It was their instinct. Chu Yang naturally teased her to disturb her state of mind. However, this woman seemed to have become desensitized after using his weapon of mass destruction. It didn't have much effect. Ji Yinmeng came out of the water like a lotus flower. Her snow-white body was stained with water droplets. Her perfect skin was delicate, and when she swayed her hair, it was accompanied by water droplets that sprinkled down like hundreds of pearls. She was even more charming and alluring. Chapter 1334. Buzz. The mental power between her eyebrows rushed out again, and she cast an illusion. In an instant, in Chu Yang's mental world, pink gas filled the air, and flowers fell in a riot. In the mist, Ji Yinmeng was faintly discernible in a pool of water in a thin shirt. It was almost the same as what Chu Yang saw at this moment. It was supported by the illusion. This woman is going all out. She's showing off in front of me. Besides, no one knows about it in the mental world anyway. She really has no scruples. Chu Yang's perception was distorted again, and he was greatly affected. After all, this woman's mental power was at the life and death realm. However, in terms of shamelessness, Ji Yinmeng was no match for Chu Yang. He commented very seriously, "You don't have breast." Ji Yinmeng was stunned for a moment. Someone actually said that to her. Although she knew that Chu Yang was messing with her mind, she couldn't help but gnash her teeth. Also, as a woman, you don't even know the most basic flirtatious gestures. I think you're a failure. You're even worse than a brothel girl. #yuan %%. #yuan %. Even though Ji Yinmeng was a fairy, she couldn't help but activate the 3-character classic at this time. How dare he compare her to a brothel girl? She was even worse than a brothel girl. Bastard, super bastard. While Ji Yinmeng was furious, Chu Yang suddenly attacked. He punched out, and a starry sky appeared above it, shining with starlight. When he punched out, it was as if a group of stars fell. By now, Chu Yang had already completely comprehended the star technique that he had obtained from Bei Chunxing. Ji Yinmeng was shocked. Could this bastard really be Eastern Wilderness 002? With a boom, she dodged, and the surface of the lake sank. Then, with a boom, the lake exploded, and layers of waves rolled into the sky. Bang! Ji Yinmeng raised her hand and shot out a green lotus. The green lotus bloomed and formed a light barrier that protected her from Chu Yang's attacks. Bang bang bang, Chu Yang's fists were like falling stars, causing the energy there to explode. Ji Yinmeng's heart throbbed. She felt that even if she did not seal her cultivation, she would not be a match for this bastard with her Dharma plane cultivation. This bastard was obviously terrifyingly strong, but he was extremely treacherous. He pretended to be weak, pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. She realized how pitiful her stupidity was. Fortunately, she also had a foundation, otherwise, she would have been defeated and captured to give birth to this bastard's child. Rumble. The void seemed to have exploded. The lake water was surging with waves of energy, evaporating into white mist. Chu Yang destroyed the protective barrier, and the green lotus also collapsed silently. Ji Yinmeng was not an ordinary person. At this moment, she used her ruthless method. A bright 5-colored spirit rope flew out, wanting to attack Chu Yang and lock him up in a dog cage. However, coincidentally, Chu Yang also attacked with hidden killing intent, using the lightning hammer in his hand. At the same time, the two of them had the idea of sneak attacking each other. Rumble. The two weapons collided, and an extremely dazzling light burst out. The lake water was pushed in all directions, revealing the bottom of the lake. Ji Yinmeng gritted her teeth. The lightning hammer was originally her weapon, but now this bastard was using it to deal with her. She was simply about to vomit blood. I'm warning you, don't have a telepathic connection with me, do you understand? Chu Yang ridiculed, and Ji Yinmeng's vision turned black. She had originally decided that no matter how this bastard provoked her, she would not be angry and maintain the demeanor of a fairy. However, she could not do it at all. This bastard was simply too infuriating. Who would want to have a telepathic connection with him? Bang bang bang. Chapter 1335. Ji Yinmeng's front, back, left, and right were all green lotuses, forming a protective barrier to protect her. However, the consumption of her energy was too great. The collision between the two had already caused the lake water to boil and even evaporate the lake water. The bottom of the lake was so dry that it cracked open. Due to the energy waves, the lake water in the distance could not gather in a short period of time. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Ji Yinmeng was too passive. She changed from defense to offense. The 4 green lotuses beside her suddenly shot out green immortal swords, which converged into a river and bombarded Chu Yang. Boom! Chu Yang used his thunder hammer to break through 10,000 techniques. Wrapped in thunder and lightning, he destroyed everything. A huge explosion occurred at that place. Ji Yinmeng flew out amidst the light and spat out a mouthful of blood. She was already injured. Little girl, you're really good. We've already fought for 300 rounds, but you can still hold on. I like it. Chu Yang was slightly shocked. This woman had exceeded his imagination. If she had not sealed her cultivation, it would have been a fierce battle. I don't want to live anymore. Ji Yinmeng completely collapsed. She had used all her means, but she was beaten half to death by this bastard and was even taken advantage of like this. Whoosh. Suddenly, she slithered like a snake and rushed in front of Chu Yang with a whoosh. She actually wanted to fight him in close combat. Fighting me in close combat? Seems like this woman has really gone crazy. Chu Yang muttered in his heart. I think I went overboard. Should I kill her? Otherwise, she might really rely on me in the future and make me take responsibility. Ouch. Chu Yang was still thinking when he suddenly felt a sharp pain and could not help but cry out. Ji Yinmeng's body seemed to have no bones. She was like a rattan or a rubber band. The degree of flexibility could no longer be described. She pounced over. Her long legs were like a whip, twisting at will. From a strange angle, she directly kicked his waist. He could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. After that, Chu Yang understood what Ji Yinmeng meant when she said she did not want to live. Her entire body was like a rope, completely tied to his body. With such intimate contact, she really did not want to live anymore. Her arms, waist, and other parts of her body were extremely soft and tough. They were all like a spirit rope. They attacked Chu Yang from inconceivable angles, and finally trapped him. He couldn't move his hands and feet at all. Women are really scary when they're shameless. I don't want to live anymore. You have to take responsibility for this. Who was responsible for whom? Ji was about to die. If she had not been cornered, she would not have entangled with Chu Yang and used such a secret technique. The entanglement between the two became even more intense. Chu Yang struggled while shouting, "Watch out for my waist. Why are you so tight? I'll give in to you, okay? Don't use force." At this moment, Ji Yinmeng was like an octopus, completely trapping Chu Yang. Her body was shockingly soft. Like a snake, she coiled around Chu Yang. A pair of jade hands also strangled his neck, strangling him to the point that his tongue was about to be stuck out. The situation was very strange. Ji Yinmeng's body and Chu Yang's body were in close contact. The two of them could feel each other's body temperature. It looked very charming and gentle. It was like a couple showing off their love, showing off what it meant to be a woman's entanglement. However, Chu Yang was already unable to breathe. All the bones in his body creaked, almost breaking. If he did not use his hands to protect his neck, his head would have already flown out. In addition, this woman also used a spiritual attack on him, causing illusions to appear in his spiritual world. What the hell is this? Is she a python? Chu Yang felt that he was about to fail miserably. This woman's secret technique was too strange. The next moment, he exploded, "Damned woman, you can be soft, but I can't be soft." Demonic god walking art. Chapter 1336. Ji Yinmeng cried out in pain. Soon after, she realized that Chu Yang was just like her. His body was extremely slippery and boneless. He kept twisting and turning as if he wanted to break free. She was astonished. This bastard was actually proficient in such a secret technique. Fortunately, even if this bastard knew it, she had bound him first. No matter how capable this bastard was, he couldn't break free. However, just as she was brimming with confidence, small hands emerged from Chu Yang's spiritual aura and tickled her. She didn't pay attention to them for a moment and they broke free. It felt as if a loach had slipped out of her hand. Later on, she realized that she had been bound in reverse. Her neck and waist were strangled, and her limbs were all restrained. What was even more infuriating was that this bastard was still commenting, "There are no trees and vines in this world. There are only vines and vines that wrap around trees. It's up to this young master whether I want to bind you or not. Cooperate, or I'll give you up immediately. Don't bind me if you have the ability. Give up." Ji Yinmeng almost fainted. She couldn't even deal with this bastard like this. Rumble. The two tangled each other in an intense battle. They were completely entangled together. This seemed very charming and romantic, but only Chu Yang knew how dangerous the situation was. A moment of carelessness and he would be strangled to death by this woman. Boom. The onlookers were completely silent. In the end, the two were entangled as if they had become one. They were like two snakes and two flood dragons tangled together. How did it become like this? Many people found it hard to accept. Wouldn't Ji Yinmeng be unable to explain herself to the wild dog? Fairy Ji Yinmeng said she didn't want to live anymore. Could it be because of this? Damned wild dog, he actually dares to do this. Those who adored Fairy Ji felt dizzy and almost fainted. What was the difference between this and seeing Fairy Ji become someone's wife? Ji Yinyin was also stunned. Her sister was actually forced to such a state. She quickly said, "Brother-in-law, can you be a little gentler? Who doesn't know that my sister is about to be killed by you? You are murdering your real wife." Although Ji Yinmeng knew that Ji Yinyin was attacking Chu Yang, she felt as if she had been hit by a stick. In that case, her chastity was truly gone. Not being sullied by this bastard was equivalent to being sullied by this bastard. She really did not want to live anymore. Wahahaha, master, this is the legendary supreme method of picking up girls. What is done cannot be undone. The parrot laughed so hard that he almost fainted. Too good, too good. Passion like fire. I think the little eastern wilderness is about to be born. Ji Yinyin was not the only one to attack outside the venue. Hao Haodong and the others could do it too. At that moment, Hao Haodong cupped his fists and said to the crowd, "Everyone, please don't look at indecent things. This couple who fell into the water can't control their emotions. Although it's a bit immoral, please bear with it and don't spread it." That's right. Oyu Lajeng also cupped his fists and said, "Everyone, please don't spread it. Our boss is a man, so it's fine, but our sister-in-law is a woman, and her reputation is thin. If this gets out, I'm afraid she won't be able to take it. Everyone, please bear with it." Kui Shinhu also said with a smile, "After all, everyone just heard that my sister-in-law said that she doesn't want to live anymore. Therefore, it's entirely possible that she really wants to die." In an instant, it attracted a round of crazy curses and curses, But the three of them did not care at all. As for Ji Yinmeng, after hearing this, she completely broke down. Who would dare to marry her in the future? Bang bang bang. She was a little careless and gave Chu Yang room to move his head. In an instant, Chu Yang's hard head slammed into her little forehead, causing her to roll her eyes and see stars. She was in so much pain that she fainted. Although her body did not exert any more strength, it was still soft. Her crystal-clear arms wrapped around Chu Yang's neck, and she was still wrapped around him like a snake. Oh, hey, this woman really knows how to torment. Your grandpa Chu is tired to death. Chu Yang panted heavily and went straight back. Waha, congratulations to my Lord Long for successfully breeding a descendant. The parrot immediately congratulated him. Chu Yang was not in a good mood, but he smiled because he saw that the animal's eyes seemed to be able to eat people. At the same time, an old man and a young man in purple walked straight toward Chu Yang. Chapter 1337. As soon as Master Sun and Master Meng came out, everyone knew that the Sky Academy was going to intervene. Most of the students couldn't help but sneer. No matter how powerful Wild Dog was, he was only one person after all. The Academy couldn't tolerate him. Hao Haodong and the other two couldn't help but frown as worry appeared on their faces. Amitabha. Young Master Fa Zhao put his palms together. He was not happy that Chu Yang killed so many people, but this trace of unhappiness disappeared completely. Chu Yang did have a reason to kill him. Chu Yang saw these two people coming out directly, but he ignored them. He walked straight back, took down Ji Yinmeng, who was entangled with him, and used her as a stool to sit on. Wild Dog, how dare you? Damn Wild Dog, let go of Fairy Ji immediately. Wild Dog, do you want to be the enemy of the entire Sky Academy? Chu Yang turned a deaf ear to them. He didn't care at all and didn't even look at them. Brother-in-law. Ji Yinyin came to him and said weakly, "You have been entangled with my sister for so long. Why don't you give my sister a chance?" She was directly caught by Chu Yang and then restrained. He grabbed Ji Yinmeng, pressed her down with a bang, and then sat on her. His actions were very wild. Wild Dog, you are simply a beast. How could you let go of a little girl? You bastard, how dare you do this? You are such a bastard. Fairy Ji is a woman after all. How could you do this? There were overwhelming accusations and curses, but Chu Yang still ignored them as if he was deaf. Yin Long's injury had been completely healed, but his face was very pale. At this moment, he was looking at Chu Yang very coldly. Master Sun and Master Meng's faces were also very gloomy. They were responsible for teaching students in the outer court of the Sky Academy. Their status was not high, but it was not low either. Every one of them had to show some respect to them. However, this Wild Dog did not come to greet them and directly ignored them. Chu Yang, do you know what you've done? Grandmaster Sun's voice was low and stern. It was as if he was lecturing his student. As for Meng Wuxia, he also had the same attitude, but his expression was even colder and crueler. Chu Yang had already sensed the hostility of these two people, so how could he be polite? He sat on Ji Yinmeng's lap, crossed his legs and said, "Who are you? Are you a cat or a dog? Can you introduce yourself before you speak? Don't make such a big fuss right off the bat. It's so confusing." He really didn't recognize these two bird men. Although he vaguely knew their identities, he pretended not to know. Naturally, he didn't take them seriously. One of them was at the 8th level of the Transcendence Realm, while the other was at the peak of the 9th level of the Soul Fusion Realm. Master Sun was so angry that his beard almost stood up. Meng Wuxia's eyes were even sharper. Wild Dog really shouldn't recognize them. After all, Wild Dog had never stayed in the outer court of the Sky Academy. However, they couldn't stand his tone. Then listen carefully. Master Sun said angrily, "I'm Sun Yang, the Grandmaster of the outer court of the Sky Academy. I'm responsible for the discipline of the outer court." He pointed at Meng Wuxia and said, "He's Meng Hu, the martial master of the Sky Academy. Now you know. One was a Grandmaster, and the other was a martial master. They were not even sages. Chu Yang had even killed a sage. He didn't even take the Soul Fusion Sage, the Transcendence Sage, and the Nirvana Sage seriously. He just casually mocked them. How dare these two trash talk in front of them? They didn't know how to write the word death. Chapter 1338. Oh, I've heard so much about you. Chu Yang didn't even lift his hand, let alone salute him. He just smiled and said, "That's right. Whether it's for revenge or to look for trouble, it's common sense to report one's own name. Otherwise, even if you want to show off, I don't know what you can show off about." Sun Yang's heart was even colder. He didn't continue to argue with Chu Yang. Instead, he pointed to the temple and asked, "Did you kill all these people? Answer me," he suddenly roared in a very dignified manner. Chu Yang picked his ears. Then, he raised his head and looked at Sun Yang. "Do you think I'm deaf? Can you speak properly? You're so surprised. Fortunately, I'm wise enough to know that you're not a lunatic." After a pause, he said earnestly, "You're not young anymore. You're already so old. You should be more careful." Sun Yang trembled with anger again. Humph. Chu Yang looked at him and sneered in his heart. "You want to show off your dignity in front of me. You want to suppress me with your identity as a teacher. Old man, you're blind. So, you killed all those people, right?" Meng Hu also spoke. His voice was extremely cold and full of killing intent. And then, Chu Yang could only despise him for asking such a question when he already knew the answer. "Why did you kill these people?" Sun Yang spoke again, and his voice became even colder. It seemed that Chu Yang would be killed if he didn't answer right. Chu Yang was really confused this time. Was what he did in the Sky Academy and what he had just done really not intimidating at all? These two small fries dared to drink in front of him and even entered the process of interrogating him. "What's your reliance? Do you want to know?" Chu Yang couldn't help but laugh. "Then you can check it out. I asked you to answer me." Sun Yang roared like thunder, which shocked many people. Chu Yang couldn't help but look cold. "I remind you, you'd better be careful when talking to me. Do you understand?" This was the third time. Sun Yang was so angry that he was speechless. "You killed so many people for no reason. Don't you know that you have committed a great crime?" The Meng Wu master opened his mouth again. "After asking a question that you already knew the answer to, you immediately pinned such a huge accusation on him." This made Chu Yang feel even more ridiculed in his heart. "Which eye of yours saw me killing people for no reason? And where did my crime come from? Isn't killing people in the exam permitted by you?" he asked directly, and then, "You deserve to die," Meng Hu coldly uttered, dragging out the last syllable. "Hee." Chu Yang laughed. "Hey, can you be more professional? You ought to let me know under what law and what crime I have committed. Even if you don't think for me." Chu Yang pointed at the people of the Sky Academy and said, "Then you have to think about them. At least let them know what crime I committed and why I was killed, right? This will serve as a warning to others. Are you all teachers like this? I've really learned something new." Waha. The parrot came out to steal the show and said with a strange smile, "This is really a good teacher for the people of the East Continent, a model for all generations. Don't you know your crime of willfully killing innocent people?" Sun Yang sneered. "Killing people like you is your second nature. You deserve to be killed by 1,000 cut. Yes, this wild dog deserves to be killed by 1,000 cuts. Otherwise, why should we serve as a warning to others? The wild dog deserves to be killed by 1,000 cut. After the wild dog is killed by 1,000 cuts, his divine soul should be extracted and used to light a sky lantern." The students of the outer court of the Sky Academy strongly supported Sun Yang and Meng Hu. Chapter 1339. Meng Hu shouted again, "Chu Yang, don't you know that you are guilty? Why are you so loud?" Chu Yang picked his ears again. With a smile in his eyes, he looked at Sun Yang and Meng Hu. "Hey, the two of you, weren't you the ones who encouraged the killing of each other in the outer courtyard exam?" After a pause, he laughed even more sarcastically. "So I'm very curious. Let me ask you something. When did the academy change the rules? Why didn't you inform me?" I can't keep up with your fickle pace. Everyone was silent. Killing people in the Sky Academy in the exam was originally allowed. The only difference was that Chu Yang had killed too many people. However, it would be a joke to say that he was guilty. Sun Yang and Meng who were so provoked that they choked, but they had already thought of a countermeasure. The academy did this just to let you know the cruelty of the exam. But what about you? You killed people just because you wanted to, not because of the exam. We can't tolerate such a beastly behavior, haha. Chu Yang couldn't help laughing. He was a little angry that they found such a lame excuse. It could be seen that the Sky Academy couldn't wait to kill him now. Tell me, how do you know that I didn't kill people for the exam? Chu Yang looked Sun Yang and Meng Hu up and down with contempt and said, I'm also very curious. Where did you two get the courage to be so presumptuous in front of me? You don't know how to spell the word death, do you? What about us? A voice came from not far away. With the sound of breaking air, 8 people arrived in an instant. Grand Master Yang Yingyuan, Grand Master Song Yongji, Grand Master Ning Fengmaro. There were also 8 people, including Grand Master Jin and Grand Master Yang. These 8 people were all Grand Masters of the outer court of the Sky Academy. Among them, Yang Yingyuan had already reached the Nirvana realm, and the other 7 people were all at the peak of the 9th tier of the Transcendence realm. The appearance of these 8 people made the students of the outer court of the Sky Academy burst into thunderous cheers. These 8 Grand Masters were enough to kill Wild Dog 800 times. At that moment, many people began to shout excitedly. Wild Dog, let's see how you'll die this time. If you don't die, the heavens will not tolerate it. Heaven can tolerate you, but I can't tolerate you. Wild Dog, the blood debt you owe can't be repaid even with your dog life. I'll make you suffer a fate worse than death. Chu Yang waited for them to slowly calm down before rubbing his chin and looking at the situation. He smiled and said, not bad, this is interesting. But what I'm curious about is why Xia Wanjin and the others are so afraid of me that they actually sent you cannon fodder to your death. Humph. Sun Yang no longer hid his killing intent and sneered, Wild Dog, who can you kill? You're about to die and you still don't know how to repent. Meng Hu also said, Wild Dog, you really deserve to die. Chu Yang was too lazy to pay attention to them. He turned his head and said to the little Zen master Fa Zhao, Monk, did you see anything? Amitabha. The little Zen master Fa Zhao put his palms together and said in a low voice, Almsgiver Chu, I have nothing to say. I've only seen the small evils in the world, but I've never thought about the big evils in the world. Almsgiver Chu, you can do whatever you want. I won't hold you back. Haha. Chu Yang laughed and said, Monk, I'll buy you a drink when I have time. Chapter 1340. Haha. Chu Yang laughed again. Wine and meat pass through the intestines, Buddha sits in the heart. If you don't experience the joys and sorrows of the human world, there are many unawakened Buddhas in the human world. How can you get rid of the mortal world? How can you know the vastness and mercy of Buddha? Monk, you're wrong. Almsgiver Chu, I'm wrong, but aren't you also wrong? Abiding by the precepts and not abiding by them are 2 different paths. Almsgiver Chu is walking on the other path, and so am I. I don't think only Almsgiver Chu's path leads to Buddha. Haha, Monk, you're right. Chu Yang chatted happily with little Zen master Fa Zhao. He didn't take the enemy in front of him seriously at all. He kept laughing. I seem to be unconventional and my heart is with Buddha, but that's just a facade. Buddha is just a Tao to me, a belief among many beliefs. I'm just a layman. Then, he said to Kui Shinhu and the others, you should get ready. We'll start talking about our principles. The 3 of them nodded. Wild Dog, you're still so arrogant at this time. Kneel down. Sun Yang sneered and ordered Chu Yang to kneel. You're just taking advantage of your seniority. I'm just being kind and want to spare your lives. That's why I didn't attack. Do you really think you're something? Chu Yang stared at Sun Yang coldly. I can tell you very responsibly that you're courting death. At this moment, Chu Yang directly attacked. He rushed over with the thunder hammer in his hand. Wild Dog, you're the one courting death. Chu Yang's movement was very strange. He rushed forward first. In order to avoid Sun Yang's attack, he dodged to the left, but suddenly appeared on Sun Yang's right. Rumble. Chu Yang killed him cleanly. Endless electric light burst out from the thunder hammer. The dazzling electric light made people unable to open their eyes. The rolling thunder resounded through the sky. Even though Sun Yang had reacted and tried to defend himself, even though he was an expert at the Transcendence Realm, Chu Yang had a Nirvana Realm thunder hammer. Ah! The old man could only let out a mournful cry as his arms were directly smashed in half. The thunder hammer broke through all obstacles and smashed his head 7 or 8 times. Bang! There was no suspense. Even though the elder was in the Transcendence Realm, he was not strong enough. His corpse fell to the ground like charcoal. The lightning on it was still wreaking havoc, crackling, and the lightning was still incomparably dazzling. Looking at the old man's corpse, everyone was deathly silent. No one had expected that under such circumstances, Chu Yang would actually dare to take the initiative to attack first and smash Sun Yang to death with a single hammer strike. What did Wild Dog rely on? How dare he be so arrogant? There were still 8 gurus from the outer yard in front of him. These were 8 evolved Jing masters, not 8 chickens and ducks. Chu Yang pointed at the crowd with the thunder hammer in his hand. I heard your reasoning just now. Now, let me tell you my reasoning. Meng, whose face was pale, without a trace of blood. A Transcendence Realm cultivator had been smashed to death with a single hammer strike. His body trembled like a sieve. He did not know whether it was from anger or fear. If Wild Dog had chosen the latter, he would have been a dead man by now. You! Yang Yingyuan, a Nirvana Realm master, stared coldly at Chu Yang. His face was filled with resentment and anger. His body seemed to twitch slightly, filled with hatred and anger. Wild Dog had actually killed someone in front of him. This was a slap to his face. To him, this was a great humiliation. At the same time, he felt a chill and fear in his heart. Wild Dog did have some tricks up his sleeve, especially with a Nirvana Realm thunderhammer in his hand. This was a great threat to him. What do you think? Chu Yang faced the crowd and asked with a smile, do you understand my reasoning? Is it reasonable? Chapter 1341. Chu Yang's arrogance had never changed. The parrot was very familiar with it. Waha! It laughed loudly. Trash, wake up. Chu Hang has transformed. Arrogant Chu has appeared. Take care of yourselves, Waha. Brother-in-law, you're mighty. Ji Yinyin had already struggled to stand up. She waved her hands and cheered for Chu Yang. She even said to the crowd, everyone, shout with me, Chu Hang is mighty. She was striving to perform well so that she could be released as soon as possible. According to her brother-in-law's nature, he would definitely not do such a thing if he was not 100% confident. These trash were all dead. Moreover, she had reason to believe this, her own sister was so pitiful. Do you know what you're doing? Yang Yingyuan said coldly. Even if you're not guilty of killing people during the test, what about now? Was he trying to frame him with new charges? Chu Yang said calmly, if that's the case, then I'll find a reason for myself. He touched his chin, then snapped his fingers. I got it. Just now, that old man wanted to kill me. He insulted me by calling me a wild dog and insulted my character. I was forced into a corner. In order to protect my dignity from being violated, I took a legitimate defense. Everyone was angry and speechless. He was lying through his teeth. How could he say such shameless words? Meng, whose face was gloomy. He pointed at Chu Yang and said, you're simply an executioner. You're crazy. Sect leader Sun is your teacher. You actually killed your own teacher. You're simply a beast. Arrogant, conceited, and despicable. If you don't kill him, the anger of the people will be appeased. Their previous slander could not stand. This time, the wild dog could not escape. Adding on the label of a teacher, Chu Yang's crime was even more heinous. Everyone wanted to kill him. Chu Yang looked at Meng Hu and sneered. Then, he walked straight over. Without saying anything, he raised his hand and slapped Meng Hu's face, sending him flying. Ah! Meng Hu screamed. His face was directly shattered, and his flesh was badly mangled. There was no way to look at him. He couldn't believe that Wild Dog was even worse, more overbearing, and more arrogant than him. Originally, I was going to smash your head with one hammer. Chu Yang looked at Meng Hu as if he was looking at a dead man. But I still have something to say. I ask you to pay attention. You can call a pig dad or mom whenever you see one, but please don't casually assign a teacher to me. Chu Yang, how dare you? Yang Yingyuan shouted angrily. Ning Fengmao and Song Yongji's faces were also filled with anger. They emitted a cold aura as they stared at Chu Yang. The rest of the grandmasters were like raging lions at this moment. Their bodies were overflowing with strands of dharmic powers of very high quality. The void behind them seemed to be about to show their own dharma forms. In addition, the students of the Sky Academy were also full of killing intent. They were ready to attack at any time. Chu Yang touched his chin and said with an evil smile, "Everyone, I'm trying to reason with this thing. Do you have any objections?" Then, he looked at Meng Hu, who was secretly licking his wounds, and said, "Meng Hu, you're a martial arts master, right? Do you understand my reasoning?" "Wild Dog. I'll kill you." Meng Hu was furious and slapped his face. What kind of reasoning was this? He was just humiliating him in front of others. He wanted to violently attack and kill Chu Yang, but he didn't dare to. His mind was filled with complicated thoughts. Seniors, Wild Dog is so arrogant and domineering. He even dared to kill people in the academy. How can we let such a treacherous beast live? Chapter 1342. Crack. The next moment, the other half of his face was also smashed. He flew out and coughed up blood. He was so ashamed that he started to scream hysterically. Yuan percent # yuan percent. Meng Hu exploded and spat out feces and dirt. He kept cursing. As a teacher of the Sky Academy, he had never been humiliated like this, even though his level was still low. "Oh, you're trying to reason with me again, aren't you?" Chu Yang calmed down, stared at him coldly, and said, "Then I'll continue to reason with you. Let's see who's more reasonable." If Meng Hu's reason was a show of tongue, then Chu Yang's reason was a cold fist. "You!" Meng Hu's cursing came to an abrupt end, but the look of anger and fear on his face was truly laughable, especially when his face was badly mutilated. Bang! Bang! Chu Yang moved and kicked him so fast that Meng Hu had no time to dodge. With a crack, Meng Hu's chest collapsed. He screamed and staggered back, covering his chest. "My reason is more profound, isn't it?" Chu Yang looked very relaxed. "What teacher? Who in the Sky Academy dares to call themselves my teacher?" They called him Wild Dog and expected him to treat them as teachers. "I'll smash your face and break your bones. Wild Dog, you're really arrogant. You're about to die, but you still dare to act so recklessly." This time, before Yang Yingyuan and Ning Fengmao made a move, a blonde man among the students of the Sky Academy sneered. He was very powerful, and his eyes were like two beams of light, sharp and threatening. "You have to come out and reason with me." Chu Yang clenched his fists, making cracking sounds, and a wicked smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. At the same time, he also felt strange. Do these people think that I'm better than Ji Yinmeng? Wild Dog, do you understand reason? It's ridiculous. The golden-haired man was very tall, like a moving mountain. His aura was extremely intimidating. He approached just like that, looking down at Chu Yang from above. However, this was another one who deserved to die. Chu Yang was very indifferent as he said, "Name, don't you understand this basic principle? This is a very bad habit of yours. Like this, I can't even ask the King of Hell to come and take your soul in advance." Yang Yingyuan and the others had strange expressions on their faces. Wild Dog was too casual. They didn't know whether Wild Dog had something to rely on or was he fearless. Facing so many of them, not to mention being afraid, he didn't even have a trace of worry. When the blonde man heard Chu Yang's words, his smile became even colder. He pointed at Chu Yang and said, "Wild Dog, remember this. The person who killed you is called Chen Dinghua. When you go to the King of Hell, Don't say that you don't know who killed you. Brother Chen, you beat me to it. A young man with a mouthful of sharp teeth grinned, revealing his big white teeth. He looked at Chu Yang coldly as if he was looking at his prey. The Sky Academy is full of crouching tigers and hidden dragons. Does this wild dog really think that there is no one here? Another person stood out, as if he was saying that he was one of the hidden geniuses in the Sky Academy. Then, several people also spoke out, saying that they also wanted to kill Wild Dog. Yang Yingyuan, Ning Fengmao, and the others looked at each other and nodded secretly. It was best to let these people explore the way for them. If Chu Yang was killed, everything would be easy to deal with. If not, they would be more confident to kill him. It's too troublesome to reason with you one by one. Chu Yang crooked his finger at Chen Dinghua and the others and said, "Get up. I'll reason with you all in one go." After a pause, he pointed at Yang Yingyuan and the others and said, "You old things also come together. You are so muddle-headed. I can't say it a few more times. After all, it's my fault for taking care of the old people." Yang Yingyuan and the others' faces darkened in an instant. "And all of you, if any of you want to listen to my reason, you can all come together." Chapter 1343. Hey, Wild Dog doesn't need to bark. Killing a dog like you is like killing a chicken with a sledgehammer. Chen Dinghua sneered. He was only at the 9th level of the spirit stage. Naturally, the wild dog would look down on him. However, the wild dog would know that he was wrong in a while and regret it to the point that his intestines would turn green. Rumble. Rumbling sounds of thunder could be heard from his tall and big body. Crackling sounds of thunder and lightning flashed out, pressing towards Chu Yang. "Aren't you guys going to make a move?" Chu Yang looked at the people who had just spoken. Sure. At this time, Chen Dinghua moved. He was like a bolt of lightning in the dark night. He tore through the void and rushed towards Chu Yang with extreme speed. Such speed was something that even those in the Transcendence realm could not compare to. It was truly shocking. Many people could not help but exclaim in shock. They thought to themselves, "This Chen Dinghua dares to attack the wild dog. He is indeed capable." Bang! However, an explosive sound rang out. Chen Dinghua was like a mad bull ramming into a metal plate. Although the metal plate took the shape of a human, his entire body was still sent flying. The iron plate was a barrier, a transparent barrier. At that moment, streaks of light pierced through the ground in that region, allowing everyone to clearly sense that there was a formation imprint underground. Wild Dog is a level 6 array master. He has already set up an array seal. Everyone instantly understood what was going on. Damn it! Chen Dinghua was ashamed and angry at the same time. Not only had he failed to show off, he had instead made a big fool of himself. What shocked him was that he could kill people who were of a higher realm than him. It wasn't a problem for him to kill someone at the 9th level of the soul fusion stage when he was at the spirit stage. However, Wild Dog was only a rank 6 array master. His attack was actually unable to break through the barrier formed by the array. Chen Dinghua's information was too outdated, but this could not be blamed on him. Chu Yang was too good at hiding. What he had set up was actually not a level 7 array, but a level 6 array. However, the combination of the heavenly soul worlds and myriad god worlds array formations made the array formation much stronger and sturdier than before. In addition, this array formation could transform into a level 7 array formation at any time. Since Chu Yang had made a move, how could he not be prepared? "Hehe, I haven't caught a turtle in a jar for a long time." Chu Yang smirked as he picked up the thunder hammer. Rumble. A bolt of lightning shot out from the lightning hammer. Chen Dinghua immediately tried to block it. However, how could he have known that a rod formed in the middle of the formation and ruthlessly struck his butt? In an instant, the flesh on his buttocks splashed out like water from both sides of the rod. Blood spurted out, and the sound of bones cracking could be heard. His entire body spasmed, and when he swung the stick again, that area was already badly mutilated. "I'm going to beat up a son of a bitch." Chu Yang grinned as he controlled the stick to smash down again. Bang! Chen Dinghua panicked and hurriedly dodged the big stick, But how could he have known that another big stick would appear and ruthlessly smashed into his head, causing him to see stars? His head hurt, his skull cracked, and he staggered back, almost falling to the ground. Why isn't this son of a bitch screaming? Doesn't it hurt? Chu Yang scratched his head as if he was having a headache. He controlled the rod to smash down again. Wild dog, you dare? Chen Dinghua was so ashamed that he wanted to die. He had just said that he would kill Chu Yang, but he was humiliated before he could achieve his goal. The two rods from the front and back made him dripping with blood. His pride, dignity, and face were all smashed into pieces. Bang, bang, bang. Even more large sticks appeared and smashed down on Chen Dinghua. Chen Dinghua did his best to block, but in vain. A spear stabbed towards him, almost killing him. It made his hair stand on end. It was too sullen. He didn't even have the chance to display his abilities before he fell into the wild dog's formation and was beaten like a drowning dog. Ah! Chen Dinghua roared furiously and struggled with all his might. He was trying to destroy everything and charge out with unusual vigor. Hehe, son of a bitch, you don't look like one. Look at how you're shouting like a dog barking. It's more appropriate to call you a drowning dog. Chu Yang was very leisurely. Let's beat a drowning dog. Bang, bang, bang. Chu Yang used the rod again. He didn't have to think too much and just smashed with all his might. Finally, Chen Dinghua was careless and was hit on the head again. With a crisp crack, a crack appeared in the middle of his forehead, and a line of blood appeared. Chen Dinghua's head had almost been split into two. Hiss. The surrounding crowd couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. At the same time, their bodies felt cold. Ah! Chen Dinghua screamed loudly and regretted his actions. This rod almost took his life and completely knocked him to the ground. He was shocked and angry at the same time. A great fear appeared in his heart, and at the same time, a sense of powerlessness appeared in his heart. Drowning dog, what do you think of my rod principles? Chu Yang temporarily stopped and said with a smile, if you say my principles are wise and mighty, I'll spare you a few rod. After saying this, he revealed his white teeth and said to those who wanted to attack, do you still want to listen to my principles? Chapter 1344. While Chu Yang was preaching about his great principles in front of everyone, a young man of about 10 or 20 years of age quietly left the crowd. When he reached a place where no one was around, he immediately launched his agility technique and flew with all his strength. The towering ancient trees retreated rapidly. Soon, the young man arrived at an open area in the forest. There was also a gurgling stream here. In the open area, the tents were like huge blooming flowers. They spread out and formed a camp, embedded in the shade of the ancient forest. There were people guarding the high points around the camp. Their vigilant gazes continuously swept the surrounding situation. Although there were many human figures, they were incomparably careful when they moved. They were afraid of making any noise. Hence, they were like ghosts, causing the entire camp to be as quiet as a ghost town. Although the people on guard saw the return of the young man, they did not obstruct him. They did not dare to obstruct him in the slightest. They allowed him to go straight into the tent in the center of the camp. At this moment, in the tent, a young man in his 20s or 30s was sitting cross-legged with his eyes closed, cultivating. He had short red hair and a fierce expression on his face. At first glance, it was frightening. There was a faint murderous aura emitting from his body, causing people to stay away from him. As the young man cultivated, a blood-red spirit chi surged out, causing the inside of the tent to be like a blood-red world. A dark red long saber was placed on his legs. The young man in his 20s was originally very anxious. However, when he entered the tent, he felt as if he had suddenly barged into a slaughterhouse. The smell of blood assailed his nostrils. When he saw the mountain of corpses and the sea of blood, he immediately felt a sense of disgust and great fear. He could not help but want to retreat, but he resisted. Buzz. The young man who was sitting cross-legged with his eyes closed was extremely alert. When the young man in his 20s opened his eagle-like eyes, at this moment, there was a hideous scar on the left side of his face. It was as if a demonic dragon had awakened. A blood-red color surged on the scar, but it was only for a moment. The red-haired man was already very ferocious to begin with, and that scar made him appear even more ferocious and menacing. Yi-hai, I've told you before that if you don't have anything important to tell me, you should know the consequences of disturbing my cultivation. The young man with short red hair only glanced at Yi-hai, and the young man, who was about 20 years old, immediately trembled. After he recovered, he immediately said, Azura, I think that I should come back and report the current situation to you. That wild dog is very likely to be beheaded. Azura, the Azura that Jiang Fanchun spoke of. This Azura, she did not say the opposite. Everyone called this red-haired youth Azura, and he was naturally the Luo Xiu that Jiang Fanchun spoke of. Kai. Suddenly, a blood-colored blade light flashed past. However, the dark red long blade that had always been on Yi-hai's legs did not seem to have moved at all. However, a line of blood had already burst out from Yi-hai's throat as fresh blood slowly flowed out. The heavens and earth suddenly became silent. Yi-hai's entire body was frozen there and he was extremely terrified. At this moment, Luo Xiu's body suddenly erupted with a sinister and ruthless aura that caused Yi-hai's soul to tremble. Xiu. Azura, did I say something wrong? Yi-hai's voice was trembling. He did not even dare to swallow the saliva in his mouth as he trembled with fear. It was not the first time that he had faced such a terrifying aura from Luo Xiu. However, even though he had felt it many times, not only did he not get used to it, he felt even more terrifying and even more terrified. Luo Xiu slowly raised his head. The hideous scar on his face was like a centipede that was crawling, causing him to look even more terrifying. He looked at Yi-hai and slowly said, Yi-hai, I told you before, don't call him wild dog, do you understand? Chapter 1345. At this moment, Luo Xiu seemed to have heard the words Chu Yang. His body trembled slightly, as if he was trying to suppress something. His breathing gradually became heavy, and his eyes were scarlet. His expression was a little crazy and scary. Luo Xiu's hatred for Wild Dog was very simple. In the entrance examination of the Sky Academy, Wild Dog had stripped Luo Xiu naked and hung him up to dry. His short red hair had just grown out, and the scars on it were clearly visible. Luo Xiu could have used his cultivation to make his hair grow faster, but he didn't. He reminded himself of such humiliation and hatred every moment. Therefore, Yi-hai couldn't understand such behavior. You may not understand now, but you will in the future. I'm saving you. Saving me? Yi-hai felt even more confused. Wild Dog was about to be killed by the gurus of the outer court of the Sky Academy. Even if Wild Dog was not killed, Luo Xiu would kill Wild Dog. Did he think that he would lose without a doubt before Luo Xiu made a move? What kind of logic was this? It was extremely contradictory, but such a bizarre thing happened. In particular, Luo Xiu's cultivation progressed extremely fast. Before entering the outer court of the Sky Academy, he was only at the first level of the Soul Fusion realm, but now he had stepped into the Nirvana realm. Soul Fusion realm, Transcendence realm, who knew how long it would take for others to cross these two realms, but Luo Xiu did it in a short period of time. It was not an exaggeration to say that he was a proud son of heaven. Such a person should not be inferior to Wild Dog. If you don't understand, don't think about it anymore, because you can't understand it. Luo Xiu completely understood what Yi-hai was thinking, but he didn't explain, because it couldn't be explained in words. It was better than him at the beginning. Then, he opened his mouth again and said, Tell me about the situation. What exactly did Chu Yang do during the time I was cultivating? Yes, Azura. Yi-hai immediately said, Last night, Chu Yang went on a killing spree and massacred many people. He learned from the Eastern Wilderness 002 Jingguan Temple and provoked everyone. First, Ji Yinmeng sealed her cultivation to fight against Chu Yang. Before Yi-hai could finish speaking, Luo Xiu spoke up, This Ji Yinmeng is truly too stupid. Even if she were to use her full strength, I'm afraid that she would not be a match for Chu Yang. If she dares to do this, she will definitely lose miserably, and she will definitely be humiliated to death. Hearing Luo Xiu's cold ridicule, Yi Hai was once again extremely surprised. He had only said a few words, but Luo Xiu already knew the result. Ji Yinmeng, you don't have to say any more. Tell me what else is going on. Yes. Yi Hai continued, Grandmaster Sun Yang and Martial Master Meng who launched an attack after that. Later, Yang Yingyuan and 8 other grandmasters rushed over. Right now, both sides are fighting. The person who provoked Chu Yang first is already dead. Yi Hai was stunned again. How could he know this? In an instant, Yi Hai felt that Luo Xiu was unfathomable, and he could not guess or imagine him at all. The 10 of them will all die. Luo Xiu sneered and said, wait a moment. Anyone who dares to make a move against him, I'm afraid this time it won't be as simple as stripping them naked and hanging them up to dry. They should all be dead. Yi Hai could not agree at all. Wild Dog was arrogant now, but the more arrogant he was, the more miserably he would die later. There was no suspense because the strength gap between the two sides was too big. How could Chu Yang be a match for the people of the Sky Academy? Azura, this is impossible. However, Yi Hai could not suppress the doubts in his heart and could not help but ask. Chapter 1346. Who made the first move this time? Of course, it was Chu Yang. Do you understand now? Yi Hai was confused. He opened his mouth and asked, Azura, why did Chu Yang make the first move? He will definitely win in the end. Luo Xiu glanced at Yi Hai and said faintly, have you ever played chess? Don't tell me that the person playing chess didn't think carefully before placing his piece. Even if he has thought carefully, it's inevitable that he will make mistakes. Yi Hai argued. That's right. Luo Xiu nodded and admitted, but Chu Yang will never make any mistakes when he makes a move. He must have complete confidence. That's not necessarily true. You can think about it. What he did in the Sky Academy was always the weak against the strong, and it was always amazing. But has he ever lost? Luo Xiu said in a low voice. He dared to make a fuss about the seal of the passageway. He played with the entire Sky Academy like he was playing with the warlords. In the end, he didn't lose. Don't you think such a person is an idiot? Yi Hai suddenly thought of it and couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. It was true. How could such a person be an idiot? Since he was not an idiot, how could he do stupid things? How could he build the capital temple and provoke everyone without any confidence? He had already dug a hole and was waiting for everyone to fall into it. Hiss! Yi Hai couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Then, he said, it's just Azura. What can Chu Yang rely on? If I could think of it, I wouldn't have lost so miserably before. I couldn't even fight with him before I was stripped naked and hung up to dry. Luo Xiu's words made Yi Hai speechless. At this moment, he deeply felt the horror of Chu Yang because Luo Xiu was already very terrifying. Azura, don't tell me you don't have the confidence to defeat him. Although Yi Hai said it, he still couldn't believe it. No, not at all. Luo Xiu spoke without any hesitation, and an extremely sharp light burst out from his eyes. If the Land of Frost is a big game of chess, then I am only one of the chess pieces, and there are chess pieces outside the chess pieces. In Luo Xiu's opinion, Sima Jian was a chess player, and his opponent was the Sky Academy. This was an outside game. Chu Yang was a chess player as well as a chess piece. His opponents were Sage Melted Soul, Sage Fawei, Sage Nirvana, Xia Wanjin, Liu Yunpeng, and others from the Sky Academy. This was a game within a game. If Sima Jian was not certain, how could he let Chu Yang enter the Land of Frost and let the Sky Academy take the opportunity to encircle and annihilate him? If Chu Yang didn't have a little bit of backing, how would he dare to provoke Sage Merged Soul, Xia Wanjin, and the others? Moreover, the things he did in the Sky Academy seemed to be very shameless and amusing, but which one of them didn't do as he pleased and was very playful? Luo Xiu was very sure that everything Chu Yang did was to establish the prestige of the Eastern Wilderness. But this time, it was different from the previous times. Chu Yang might still have a little hope in the previous times, so he was not so pessimistic about the malice of the East continent. But after a series of things he did, the situation still did not change at all, and even became worse and worse, so his response would certainly be more and more fierce. Therefore, this time, many people would die. Only when many people died would the Sky Academy be afraid and be able to deter the students of the Sky Academy. According to Luo Shou's inference based on the study of Chu Yang's nature, he felt that in this outer academy assessment, there might be few students left in the outer academy of the Sky Academy, and there might even be a gap in the students of the Sky Academy. Because this matter was big enough and the impact was fierce enough. Chapter 1347. After listening to everything Luo Shou said, Yi Hai was a little confused. He was stunned on the spot for a long time. Everything was completely different from what he thought, and even the result was completely opposite. Azura, since you have no confidence to defeat Chu Yang, why did you agree to Gongsun Long's request? According to Luo Shou's logic, Yi Hai was even more confused. Because this is an opportunity, Luo Shou lowered his eyes. Without Gongsun Long's support and resources, I couldn't have reached the Nirvana realm so quickly, and I couldn't have obtained the Azura secret skill. After a moment of silence, he opened his eyes again, which made Yi Hai feel that Luo Shou seemed to have become completely different, as if a giant dragon had awakened. To be exact, I want to fight with Chu Yang again and feel how big the gap is between him and me. Luo Shou's voice became somewhat impassioned. Yi Hai, people like us who come from the same background have no choice but to fight. The fastest way for us to understand ourselves, to have a higher level of comprehension in the martial way, and to have the deepest feeling, is to exchange blows with the most supreme genia. Generally speaking, people like us will definitely die if we challenge the god's favored one. Luo Shou continued, for me, I'm extremely lucky and extremely unfortunate. Fortunately, because Chu Yang is from the Eastern Wilderness, his status is very low, so I had the opportunity to challenge him at the beginning. Unfortunately, I was also humiliated. He sorted out his thoughts slightly. Maybe I should say that being in the same era as Chu Yang is in itself a lucky and extremely unlucky thing. Yi Hai never expected that Luo Shou's evaluation of Chu Yang would be so high. He said incredulously, Azura, is it possible that there are geniuses in the Sky Academy who are far inferior to Chu Yang, both in the open and in the dark? Luo Shou was silent. He found it difficult to answer all of a sudden. After a while, he said, if I answer you, according to my intuition, yes, it must be. No one in the Sky Academy can be compared with him, even in the entire East continent. This, Yi Hai was completely shocked. Luo Shou's answer made him completely speechless. Luo Shou indeed did not have any basis to convince others. He only relied on his own intuition. But even if it was just intuition, it was still incomparably shocking. Because to be able to make Luo Shou like this, if Chu Yang did not have something incomparably shocking on his body, how could it be possible for him to touch Luo Shou? Shura, you told me not to mention wild dog so casually, especially to Chu Yang. Is that why? Yi Hai couldn't help but laugh bitterly. Luo Shou actually slashed his neck for his own good. Who would believe him if he said this out loud? Luo Shou nodded. I have a feeling that Chu Yang will surpass the East continent and make the entire East continent submit to him. No one will dare to resist. Because of the impact just now, Yi Hai was not very surprised. However, he was greatly surprised by the words that followed. Perhaps Chu Yang is Eastern Wilderness 002, or perhaps Eastern Wilderness 002 is far inferior to Chu Yang. Such a high evaluation made Yi Hai completely speechless and unable to comment. Chu Yang was extremely amazing. He was very sure now, but he was not sure how amazing he was. Therefore, he could not agree with Luo Shou's point of view. After that, Yi Hai said again, Azura, since you know that you will lose, why do you agree to be such a cannon fodder? You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.